Greetings, everyone. Rastafari. Lion. They them for stop, mix up Rastafari as a movement with the Nyabingi. This is the serious problem that we find ourselves in. That's why I don't say anything. I don't speak to you all. Literally don't care nothing about you all, And I'm just talking the truth. Because I go around in circle and I talk about Nyabingi. Nyabingi is a spiritual entity that privately those that want to participate in the churchical order participate freely. Rastafari as a movement is a separate thing. 1961, Jamaican Rasta is who rally the Jamaican government to place the first sanction on South Africa in the world. No. That's why when Mandela get released, him go to Jamaica, go kiss the ground. Because he knew that Jamaica was who put the first sanction against apartheid. So we were always political brethren. Sam Brown is one of the men where mount that sanction. I come in South Africa because of my upbringing, come participate in the liberation struggle. I never come in South Africa come deal with no Nyabingi business. It's liberation struggle I come in there come deal with for help free that. And after we supposed to free South Africa, then I went to Nyabingi privately. That's when I discovered that this part of the trad was not fully established. And I leave South Africa and go back to Jamaica to bring my father to South Africa to actually work on that. Only for me to reach Jamaica, and the Jamaica government already took my father, make him a dean, and give him a faculty up at the university. Hence, Rasta in South Africa end up with Bongo Watto at a time in his age when he was too old. Bongo Watto was the wrong man to come. But I don't like it or not. Because he was too old and he was ancient in his thinking. Bongo Watto was never an out-of-the-box thinker. Bongo Watto was just churchical. He wasn't. So, for those of you who want to embrace Bongo Watto, you're all free if you want to be just churchical. But this is the problem. We have to separate ourselves. I am not a churchical person, but I do recognize the churchical aspect of the Nyabingi. I do respect it. It's just that I am not making the go-to place for me. I, as a revolution struggler, I relate to everything black globally. That's what make I different from the item. When I hear all the item are imitate who not imitate Jamaica. Who not try to do everything. That's why it can't be real. You try to talk like us, you try to eat like us, you try to walk like us. That's not Rasta. You know what is Rasta? Rasta is I, with big I self, wherever I go. Whether I go to China, I not try to be nobody else. You ever hear me talk like an American? I'ma spend years in America. But look around in South Africa. Every man I try to be Jamaican. Every South African man I try to be Jamaican. But if I come to South Africa, I'm not chat to no. You have to be yourself. Then you can get my attention as a brother. I mimic una mimic. And then una reach the point now where una try tell the original what to do. So disrespectful. I mean, me hear a brethren I try to address Iron Priest Harold. Me ignore that because, personally speaking, Iron Priest Harold a seeing a Rasta man. So our views is unquestionable, especially to some little whippersnapper where I try a thing with Rasta, and I not try nothing. And I know in my position. Yeah, I am Rasta, but I am Rasta from a different angle. I know spiritual and biblical. So the spiritual and biblical person I go always have conflict with I. So brethren, if we can just be ourselves, then we'll be all right. The struggle is easy. Whatever political party want to help Rasta, they don't need to talk anything now. They need to implement it. At the first election in South Africa, Rasta participate in it. I, JahBunny, vote for the soccer party. I did vote for the soccer party. Where is the soccer party now today? Because we don't need to start nothing new. We already did have a party. Where's the soccer party right now? So we need to revive that and give them rightful place so they can put things in place for Rasta.
Yeah, Rastafari Adonai. Jaja bless. Put a fire on political press. One more stress on the foreign press. Light up for the cross-dresser and them Rasta transgressor. One station with them information. JahBunny the badass station. Creation station. You can't stop it, nor slap it, nor clap it. Jaja.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. Good morning, world. This is the Rastafari International Ambassador, JahBunny, better known as the Badass, the man from Buzzwalk, Bakawal. Today, I will be doing a special broadcast directed to my black brothers and sisters around the world. Namely, in South Africa, better known as Zana, and in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. I have asked my black American brother, Jason Black, from the Black Authority, for his help in clearing up the black conscious school of thought regarding our liberation. With my brothers and sisters globally. I would ask that the following platform pay close attention to this message. EACRC WhatsApp platform, the Nyabingi Asian Council platform run by Junanigos and others, the platform Nyabingi Asian Council platform, the Pan-African Asian Council platform, and other splintered Rasta group. I, as the Rastafari International Ambassador, I am member to the above named platform. And I have noticed that on these various platforms, there are a lot of so-called intellectual. And all they do is spread white lies. And as a result, I will be having Jason and Edith to break down the code regarding black liberation. Now, on these various platforms, I have noticed that a lot of these so-called intellectuals, whether they are barristers, lawyers, whatever they are, they like to come with a lot of white programs. For example, a white girl or a white man have something to say about black people, and they readily want to push these people idea on us. Now, let me let you all in a bit of secret. As you all know, I was captured and did 15 years in the goal. My brother, Gilly Priest, were captured before I, and he did 45. And he have just came out. And I think he have made a couple of broadcasts with my help. And these broadcasts so far have established his observation upon release after 45 years that nothing much have changed for us. But what I have paid close attention to is my brother mindset. Gilly told us that he had done 45 here in the goal, and he have never set foot in a classroom. However, he have studied at some of the most parliament educational institution in the US. Don't ask me how I'm doing it. The point that I'm making, you have never set foot in a classroom. Which lead me now to my 15-year-old. I too have never set foot in any classroom while I was inside. So how did JahBunny learn? I explained to you all in several broadcasts before that I have studied history from 5 different perspectives. I have studied Jamaica history, Caribbean history, Black American history, African history, and independence study. All these study was done from solitary confinement. The way a revolutionary soldier study, because we are captured by Babylon, we had was to devise meaning to study without Babylon know what we are studying. Don't ask me how we did that, but I did it. Therefore, today, nobody really know what I know. Nobody. Upon my release, all I do is continue my study. So whenever you see me anywhere, I'm in the classroom, I'm studying. I'm always studying. Wherever you see me, I'm always studying. I'm always soaking up all the information around me. Now, as a result, my good brother, Pharaoh Ramesses, whatever we had misunderstanding about, there's one thing that Pharaoh pick up on, and he said it over and over, and that is, don't take JahBunny lightly. JahBunny knows a lot. Yes, I knows a lot. And because I know a lot, here it is. I'm on the Asian Council platform in South Africa. And you have this runaway, split away soldier of Sizzla Kalonji by the name of Juna Nikos. And he's angling the platform like it is his personal platform. So he chooses to dictate what one can say and what one cannot say. How is that? When did Rasta come to one man a dictate to every man? Now, I have noticed, coming up through the bloodline, freedom of speech. To me, I speak to the globally, I'm not going to be using a whole heap of high word. Come on, the people them understand what I am saying today. One of the most fundamental principles of Rasta is freedom of expression. This is why on my platform, everyone is free to like or don't like, to follow or don't follow. JahBunny cares zero who follow, because the truth is the truth. So once you hear the truth, you will know you're hearing the truth. Now, my good brother, Jason Black, I've did a program, and that program is called Who Does Juneteenth Belong To? So, without further delay, I will turn you over to Jason Black, and then interact with Jason where I see fit. Jason, your time.
Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program, I think it's important for us to have this conversation about Juneteenth and who does it belong to? Because what we're learning and what we're discovering here is that you cannot become apathetic, and you cannot assume that because something is true today, that it will be left alone to remain true. You can't assume that. There are entirely too many people who are involved, and too many people who have a vested interest in making sure that what you know or what you think you know does not remain that way. And what they do is they get to work very early on to try to divest you of that. Now, in the chat room, there's somebody named James Curtis. Very glad that Mr. Curtis has given the answer that he has. I'm going to open up the phone lines here in about 15 minutes, and he will be the first one we want to have give us a call in so that he can explain that to us, so that we can understand that. As you all know, I am a lifelong proponent and an advocate of making sure that we explain these things ourselves, and we have to be our own narrators. We've been lulled into a false sense of security that nobody cares about us, and then as soon as somebody wants to bring the oppressive hammer down, then all of a sudden we acknowledge, oh, everybody cares what's going on over here. And we have to not just say these things as slogans. For the last few decades, it's been said as a slogan that we created American culture, as opposed to us stating it as an empirical fact. And I'm not saying this propaganda, I'm saying that is the truth. When you take a look at the music, when you take a look at the language, when you take a look at the culinary arts, when you take a look at what America's biggest export is, please remember, long before the Black Channel ever came here, any of you who have studied or gone to school for economics, you know full well, if you've gone to school for economics, for business, they will tell you, they've been saying it for decades and decades and decades, America's biggest export is American culture. Now, that is what they have said for time immemorial, that our biggest export is our culture. that is America's biggest export. But here's the thing. Back in the 80s, when they said that, they said America's biggest export. And you all remember there were television shows and movies when they said America's biggest export is this culture. And then what they would show is...
1 minute, Jason. I'm just going to sync with Jason here now. So we know for a fact that America's biggest culture is Black American. Now, take Jamaica. Jamaica's biggest culture today is everything Rasta. Everything Rasta is Jamaica's biggest culture. But for some reason, Jamaica is not, Rasta is not benefiting anything from what it create. Somehow, the culture now is being handed over to everybody but Jamaican. But Jason, come in again.
Levi's jeans and Coca-Cola. If you'll all remember that, back in the 80s when they used to talk about that, that was what they would say. They would say America's biggest export is America's culture, and then immediately would shift to Levi's and Coca-Cola, something that they could point to and then say, oh, there's nothing but black folk there. Nothing but black folk there. And that's not accidental. Now, remember, this was in the 80s. So we're talking about when Michael Jackson is at the height of his abilities, the NBA is taking off, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson are the face of it. And yet they repeatedly went out of their way, when they talk about American culture, gone out of their way to divorce it from the folks who are the trendsetters and have defined it. And it took us going around the world and saying, hey, take a look at what they're doing in China, in Tiananmen Square. They're holding up pictures of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Take a look in Japan. They are completely cloning everything we do. Take a look in the Middle East. The face of the young jihadis. They're using rap music. You take a look in Turkey and India, they're copying Michael Jackson down to a T, to the point that even in these nations, the men are complaining that the women are more attracted to the cultural aesthetic that we created than anything else. When you talk about song and dance, which is how culture is transmitted through history, the written word is a great and wonderful thing, but you don't understand a culture until you've heard its music. America had no music before we created it. Let's be very clear. I'm not saying that as a slogan. I'm saying it as an empirical fact. America had no music. There wasn't any American music. Everything that they had was what they brought over from Europe with them. For the Irish, for the English, the Anglo-Saxons, the Germans, the Brits, you name them, the music they brought over, they brought something over.
I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear. And it is an honor, actually.
Something over with them. So they can't lay claim to the waltz. They can't lay claim to even polka music. They can't lay claim to that. That was something that was pre-existing. And it was brought over with them. The reason why we are the creators of the culture is because we didn't have anything to draw off of, including the white population around us. Remember, we were not allowed to do that. We were segregated from them. So we didn't have anything from Africa to draw off of. And we weren't allowed to draw off the dominant society. We were forced to be put into this microcosm, this petri dish, where we had to create it out of whole cloth, out of nothing. That's the difference. You can't take a look at what we created. Bluegrass, ragtime, jazz, the blues, country music, rock and roll. There were no precursors. You can't go to Europe or Africa and find the precursor of ragtime. You can't do it. There is no precursor that you can draw from somewhere else and say, well, that's where y'all got it from. That's the difference. We can point to everything else and show you, hey, you brought that over on a boat with you. You can't take a look at what we did and say, okay, here's where you drew that from. We were isolated, segregated, and we created it all on our own. Somebody in the chat room says gospel music. Very good point there, because you see, we were physically separated and segregated from the white populations and the white congregations. So we were not allowed physically nor socially to draw off of them. We had to come up with our own, the old 100s. We had to create our own. And when they came to our churches, they heard a completely different species when it came to the music there. The only similarity was a reference to a divine deity, and that was where the reference and the similarities ended. We were talking about liberation. We were talking about where we are and where we going. In their churches, they were talking about something different and singing something different. We were speaking about something that from our experience was unique. Our experience was unique. Let me explain to you all something here. When you're talking about song, when they built the railroads in this country, there was an old 60 Minutes piece that was talking about that. For those of you who don't know, there was an old piece from 60 Minutes with Charles Kuralt years ago that was talking about that. That was what we created. That was what we made. It was not 60 Minutes. It was CBS Sunday Morning. CBS Sunday Morning. It was CBS Sunday Morning. And it was Charles Kuralt. It was decades and decades ago here. And they were showing the black men straightening out the railroad tracks. They were showing them straightening it out in the 20th century, and that was a dying thing that they were doing. That was the whole point. That was a dying thing because they were bringing in machines. And what CBS Sunday Morning was documenting was, by the way, this is going to be the last you're going to see of these men out here straightening the tracks, because they're going to be bringing in machines. I mean, that they were already bringing in machines, and that was phasing out the need for men with strong arms and strong backs to sit there and straighten out the railroad tracks. And they were singing as they did that. That was a practice that had been passed down. That was a practice that had been passed down. See, that's what we made. That was what we made. That's the difference. So when you talk about Juneteenth, what I'm telling you all right here is that there's even a difference in that. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines here. And we're going to have a conversation about who does Juneteenth belong to. I submit to you all here that it is imperative that we make sure that everything that we have touched and made, we have got to lay fierce, uncompromising claim to it. We have got to lay uncompromising claim to it from the very beginning, because if it is allowed to wander for any length of time without us making sure that we have an absolute lock on it, we are going to look up in very short order and it's going to be turned into some general amorphous thing that quote unquote applies to everybody. It'll be turned into Veterans Day or something else. Whatever is efficacious, look it up. Whatever is most effective at divorcing us from it. Because you see, these other things have a meaning. These other things have a meaning. You see, the reason why we have always looked at July 4th with a jaundiced eye is because all these people talking about Independence Day and the Day of Independence, meanwhile we sitting over here in chains. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and yet we sitting over here in chains. That all men are born with inalienable rights, and yet we sitting right there next to Thomas Jefferson in chains. You wasn't going to be able to sell us on that, Jack. With us sitting right there next to you in chains. So you see, Independence Day, there's been a problem because you've had a segment of the population that was anathema to Independence Day. July 4th was a day of hypocrisy, not a day of celebration. And that is why when you talk about Juneteenth, you see, that's that separate culture. The fact that we pass these things down, because understand something, the reason Juneteenth not being mentioned for so long, that wasn't accidental. People, do you understand that America has engaged in a strategy of ignoring our history in the desperate hopes that it will eventually get lost to time and vanish? They have gone to work to get everything else, but they have been hoping desperately that everything that it referenced us will eventually just get lost and disappear and go away. And that eventually it would wither on the vine. And even if we could not be assimilated, we would no longer be a problem. That's the hope. That's been the hope. That's been the goal. And that's why it's essential for us to have a conversation about who does Juneteenth belong to. If you cannot draw your history and lineage to the slave fields of America, then I don't understand what you're doing. No. Let me explain to you what I mean here. I'm not saying that you're a person who cannot observe it. You, of course, need to observe it if you're on American soil. You don't understand the history of America if you do not have our experience in its proper context. You don't know America's history. We are inextricably linked to it. We are an integral ingredient in it. You don't have the United States of America if we did not build it. Let me go ahead and get to that real quick here. I've mentioned this before, but I must remind you because so many of you tend to be psychologically intimidated. And we don't want that to be the case, that you become psychologically intimidated when it comes to reparations. I was the man who taught you all, don't be afraid to say cash dollars. They didn't want to say cash dollars. I said, okay, tell them cut the check. But you cannot be shy or intimidated about that. When it comes to who built this nation, you all understand when you talk about New York City, when they talk about the Empire State Building and the building of the Empire State Building, you do realize that they don't mention the bankers who financed it, nor the architect who designed it, nor the engineers who engineered the building. You notice they don't talk about them. Did you get that? When they talk about the Empire State Building and the majesty of it and who built it, they only focus on one group of individuals, the manual laborers. They don't give credit. They don't talk about, they don't lionize the guy who designed the Empire State Building. If I asked you what the name of the company was, you couldn't tell me. If I asked you the architect, you couldn't tell me. But if I showed you a picture of them with no context, you wouldn't know who it was. And yet, when they talk about building the skyscrapers and who built New York and who built the ports and who built the Brooklyn Bridge, they don't discuss the architects and the engineers, the part that they are most proud of and that they're constantly beating their chest over is who was it who risked their lives and did the manual labor and had to know how to do the welding and the brick masonry and the pipe fitting and going up all those feet in the air where people died. That's what they show you. That's what they remember. That's what they remember. Do you understand that? That's what they remember. They did that for a reason. Because they don't want you to get confused about who it is who did the actual work. Anybody can have a dream or an idea. Dreams and ideas are a dime a dozen. You can't build that skyscraper by itself. You can't build that skyscraper by itself. That skyscraper is going to need knowledgeable people. You see, an architect can design a building and an engineer can tell you about materials, but the folks who have to actually do the work are going to be the ones to tell you whether or not this is going to actually be feasible. For any of you who've built a house from the ground up, you can have all the ideas you want to. You can lay out the floor plans all you want to, but the folks who are going to go and lay the foundation, they're going to be the ones who will tell you whether or not this is actually going to work, or whether or not this is something that only works in between your ears. And that's what we base these things on. So isn't it amazing that up until now, we defined building the nation, building a city, the people that we gave credit to were the manual laborers who had to learn the skill sets necessary to make that work. Up until now, that's who we've been giving credit to. Right up until we showed up. Now they're telling you that, oh, it's whoever was the architect who designed it. It doesn't matter who the architect was who designed it if the laborers cannot understand it. Did you get that? See, what they'll try to fool you into thinking is that it's a bunch of unskilled people and they don't know, that black folk didn't know the difference between a cotton field and a football field. So that when you're doing agriculture, all you got to do is go pick the beans. And then you have to come back and tell them about Benjamin Banneker and all the others, and it's like, oh, by the way, no, that's not enough. What Michael Bloomberg said, you dig a hole in the ground, you put in a seed, and then you water it, That's not agriculture, sir. That's not the way farming works. It ain't that simple. If it were that easy, there'd be farms around the world everywhere. It ain't that simple. Determining crop rotation, it ain't that simple. It's not enough to just till the soil and tear up the dirt. That's not what you're doing. You got to know the difference between good ground and bad. You see, if black folk didn't know anything, then when we were released from slavery, we wouldn't have been able to keep ourselves. Black folk had to build houses for their families. Malcolm X's father, they had to make food on their own. The white folk weren't giving it. So they want to sit up here and deceive you into thinking that you were just sitting around as unskilled labor like children, and that there was some white person standing around who was telling you, okay, pick up this board, take it over there, set it down, cut it like this, cut it like that, cut it like this. That's what they want you to think, because that's what's most convenient. But what they will not do is allow you to start having the conversations like we have here, to talk about who built it, who built Washington, D.C., when you take a look at the Capitol building, by the way, the dome on the Capitol building, that giant iron monolith, when you take a look at that, when you take a look at the Washington Monument and all the laid out Masonic wonders of the city of D.C., what do you think happens? What do you think happens? Who do you think did that? Who do you think understood that? They were not giving these architectural plans to folks who didn't know. They weren't giving architectural plans to people who didn't understand math. That's not what they did. We understood it. We understood the numbers. Hell, we could tell you how many bricks you needed. And that's the point. That's the point. However, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Blackest Radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. You're welcome to join us. I feel like it's imperative to speak on this now that we are heading into Juneteenth, because that's essential. It's essential that we understand that going forward, we have to be the caretakers of our knowledge and our information. We have to be the caretakers of that. These other folk are going to sow confusion. We have to know what our story is so that that's what we're passing down. Jewish society didn't leave it to other people. They left it in their own hands. They've been carrying it ever since. If we're going to discuss Juneteenth, we first need to determine who does it belong to. Let me go ahead and get over here on the phone lines. Caller from area code 206. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is Agnes calling from Seattle, Washington.
All right, Agnes, what's on your mind?
Hi, I learned about Juneteenth from my elders. I learned that Juneteenth actually belongs to Texans. The Emancipation Proclamation got passed down by word of mouth, and the formerly chattel slaves in Texas learned about the Emancipation Proclamation in June. And that's when the word got out. So that's what I learned. Also, growing up, now I grew up in the South, where Juneteenth was taught as part of not just Black History Month, but part of your culture, period. You learned about all of the people who built this country, how everybody contributed past and present. A lot of times we had Juneteenth speakers. Now, I spent my formative years in South Carolina where Juneteenth was celebrated usually about the second weekend. So that time we took time to get elders. When I was growing up, there were still a lot of war vets still around. A lot of the World War II and, of course, Vietnam vets would talk about that. We'd also get local historians to teach us who we are and where we came from, and stress the importance of knowing your roots, where you are, and where you're going. That's all I have to say. Be one.
Okay, well, slow down. Okay. Agnes is not going to be allowed to call in for another month if Agnes does not get back on the phone. So Agnes hung up. Agnes needs to get back on the phone here because we need to have a conversation about that. A lot of folks here with a lot of misconceptions, and we need to make sure that we clear some things up here. We need to make sure we clear some things up. So, Agnes, you're going to need to go ahead and give us a call back in here, ma'am. If you do not, we're going to make sure that you don't call back anymore. So, folks, if there's something to be said here, it's like we don't get on the phone. Oh, let me hurry up and run. No. If we are going to spread disinformation or misinformation, that needs to be corrected. Now, y'all know this. She's never jumped off the phone that soon before. So, folks, when they understand they're saying something that's probably not correct, it's, oh, can I do that? No. No, we don't do that. Now, Agnes, that's very much out of character for you, and that's because we all suspect, by the way, yeah, she understands what she is saying is propagandistic, not accurate, and loaded. So there needs to be an opportunity to go ahead and to fix that. Understand?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the first thing that you said was, well, I listened to the old folk there, and they said that Juneteenth belongs to the Texans. I would like for you to excuse me. Okay, excuse me here. Okay, you didn't say that statement as speculation. You did not say that statement as a question. You said that statement as an empirical fact, and then you hung up the phone and ran. Now, I would expect that from some folks who are not black. But from black folk here, it becomes very suspect when folk do that, and somebody else in the chat room has said the same thing. And what I'm saying here is like, okay, you didn't say that as if you were wondering or unsure. You said that as an empirical fact. And what I'm saying is, and this is how lies and disinformation and misinformation get spread far and wide. Now, you might think what you were saying was historically accurate. However, what you were saying was not only not historically accurate, it was also a logical fallacy. And I'm going to have you show it. This is a teaching moment, everyone. This is a teaching moment that all of us, whether you're talking to James Clyburn to check him on reparations, or whether we're discussing Juneteenth, or whether we're discussing the origins of hip hop, or whether we're discussing black empowerment and economics, we cannot afford to have misinformation being disseminated as a fact. Hell, we can't afford to have it disseminated at all. So, before I go any further, this is your opportunity here, because we want to make sure we have this in its proper context from you before I go any further. Now, you said that it belonged to the Texans. Number one, I would like to know who the, quote, Texans are. And number two, I would like to know why you think that it belongs specifically to them.
Look, Jason Black, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm here to learn like everybody else.
Correct. And I'm simply asking you where that came from, because you're not the only one who said that. You stated it as an empirical fact, and this is a teaching moment, Agnes. So, second time, you said it belongs to the Texans. I am asking you as the person who said that. Who are the Texans you're referring to, and why does it belong to them?
I'm talking about the black folks in Texas.
Okay. Do you see a problem with that?
If there's a problem, enlighten me with it.
Okay, that's I just wanted to say that right there. By the way, who are these Texans you're referring to? The ones out there in chains? Were you referring?
Yeah.
So those are the Texans you're referring to.
The black folks in Texas, yeah, the people who descended
The ones who were legally defined as 3/5 of a person had no rights, thus why they were in chains. Those were the Texans?
Well, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
No. I'm taking this as an opportunity to learn here, Agnes, because there's a lot of folk who say that, okay. And I want you all to have all of these things in their proper context, because we can't say 1 minute that we're legal aliens and then turn around the next minute and say we're Texans in the middle of chattel slavery. That's a contradiction. That leaves you open to other people denying your claims of slavery, because what that really plays into, that's more compatible with the idea that we were laborers as opposed to slaves, that we were people in an unfortunate condition within the system as opposed to the fact that we were captives outside of it. So when you say you say that we were Texans, no, we were black. And the Texans you're referring to were in the same condition as everyone else. Case in point here, boy, maybe I got lucky here tonight. Let me see. Might not have gotten too lucky about this. Folks, here's the thing I want y'all to understand. Let me make sure I don't have volume on here because I don't want this thing playing in you all's ears. Been sitting on this here for a minute. We're going to go ahead and get to that. Y'all got to excuse me here. I want to post something for you here. This will be good for you all's edification. I've talked about this before, though I do not know if I had actually gotten an opportunity to share it with you all. I don't think I did. So what I'm going to do is post this in the chat room here. I got to bring this up on the newfangled technology here. On the cell phone, I gotta bring it up on the newfangled technology. I'm gonna put this in the chat room here because there's a question you all need to ask yourselves that most other people don't ask. When did slavery end? Well, you may have some idea there. Oh, no. I don't mean philosophically. I don't mean philosophically.
Legally?
Because I want you all to understand, I did not bring receipts. I brought invoices. Let me throw it up in the chat room right quick. You all can take a look at that. That's an article from Vice. Yes, I know, Gavin McGinnis. That's an article from Vice. And what it clearly will tell you there, from the headline, black people in the U.S. were enslaved well into the 1960s. Now, here's my point. Now, y'all can click on that article. I posted there in the chat room, but you can click on that article. Those of you listening live or recorded. Here's my point. If the story that we're telling about Juneteenth is that this is when they were informed about the change of our status, as was explained to you all in 7 a.m., that if Juneteenth constitutes when these folks were informed about the change in their status, and that now you have a holiday commemorating that occurring, what I'm saying is, if you're going to reduce that to, quote, the Texans, then we'd have to say that that's a bookend. I can show you people who were not aware after Juneteenth. I can show you people who were not aware of it even after that. And that became a cultural norm that was passed down. I can show you that. So what I'm saying is, first and foremost, I'm glad you gave us a call tonight, because this is a teaching moment, Agnes. And I want everyone to have a clear definition of this, so when we march forward, we all have a common frame of reference, so that we understand, first and foremost, once you say that folks are slaves, you can't call me a slave and an American, which is where we would all start from. You see what I mean? You cannot tell me that I'm an American and I'm also a slave, because I read your Constitution, even though you didn't want me to read it. Well, this Constitution says all men are created equal. I'm not equal to the dudes over there ain't slaves. And furthermore, to clarify this further, they're not eligible to be slaves. See, this is why if we're going to have a conversation about slavery, we have to understand this proper context. White people were not eligible to be slaves. The Constitution did not acknowledge nor allow white people to be chattel slaves. It allowed them to be servants. It allowed them to be prisoners. It didn't say from the moment you're born, you've committed no crime except you were born. Get your ass in these chains. That was a condition that you could not impose on any white person, including the less than white people, the Italians, the Irish, the Greeks, so on and so forth, even the Jews. You could not submit them to chattel slavery from the moment of birth. Their whiteness was honored. Maybe it wasn't honored to the level that they might like the Anglos or the Germans, but their whiteness was honored from the moment they were born. Thus, their Americanness was honored from the moment they were born. We were born on this soil without whiteness, there was no Americanness to honor, as stated by the so-called founding fathers themselves, as stated by Justice Roger Taney and the Dred Scott decision, that the black man, not the black American, but the black man has no rights that the white man is obligated to observe. Did you all understand that? That's not a matter of, oh, you're not American enough. It's nothing. Your blackness has disqualified your Americanness. You're not an American. You're a slave. You don't have any rights. Americans have rights. People, I'm not making up these rationales out of my ears here. People, you're an American. If the Bill of Rights applies to you, then you are an American. That's what it means to be under a government. That we can show you a document that tells you what are your rights and privileges under that government. That there's a piece of paper that says this is what the government owes you. The Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, nowhere in there just say we're obligated to give black folk a damn thing. We acknowledge you're present, but by the way, we also acknowledge we don't have to give you anything. They're sitting there telling you, yeah, you're on American soil, but you're not an American. You're a slave. Whether you're a slave in Tennessee, a slave in New York, or a slave in Texas, or a slave in California. Which is why they have to pay reparations too, because we keep reminding them, by the way, you honored that condition even in California. If they brought slaves with them, they didn't get liberated. You honored it. You complied with the fugitive slave laws. You honored divorcing us from our Americanness. Now you want to claim, oh, we didn't have no part in it. Well, that's not what y'all did at Nuremberg, and that's not what they've been doing with the Nazi hunters since then. Everyone who collaborated with Nazi Germany gets told, and this is what you owe. Now we're here in America, and they're saying, oh, rule change. And we're like, no. Old rules, stick with that. So I went through that explanation to put that in context to you all at the national level. We can't then go to Texas and say, okay, new rule. Well, those folks in chains, they're Texans. I mean, yeah, they black, and they're the only ones who are eligible to be put in chains is they're black. Well, you mean like the black folk across the street in Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Missouri? You mean like them? And yes, folks, Missouri was a complicit state with slavery. There's a whole bunch of states y'all need to take a look at.
Washington Territory had slavery too.
Well, I'm really going, when I say those words though, what I'm really talking about is more adjacent to the Civil War, but I don't want to get bogged down in that. You all can go take a look at the history of that for particularly Texas and Missouri. There were these fringe states. So if it weren't for Sam Houston, things would have gone radically different in Texas, by the way. So if there's anybody who does deserve some type of credit, Houston may. But what I'm saying is that if we're going to sit, when we say those things, Let me tell you what my issue was, Agnes. My issue is with this idea of divorcing us. This idea of saying that there's some black folk over here and they're separate from the whole. Why they get held out for particular privileges or particular acknowledgement. That's the issue that I have with something like that.
I understand.
Is the idea that there's folk in that situation. Let me give you an example here.
I see.
From the African American Museum. All right. First of all, you want to talk about architects. Do you all know who designed the African American History Museum in D.C.? I want y'all to, you can go Google this one. You don't have to ask me. You all are invited. By the way, you should go look up who the person was who designed that building. You should go take a look at it and see who he was, or should I say who he is. He's still designing buildings now, and I don't begrudge that. While there's a building that he's designed in New York. By the way.
David Ajayi.
But by the way, no. It was black folk. It was black folk. It just a museum for African American history that was not designed by a museum about the history of the slaves that was not designed by a descendant of the slaves.
David Ajayi, Phil Freelon, J. Max Bond Jr. No, they're all expats.
Now, think about that for a few moments. Now, do not begrudge him his ability to do that. What I'm saying is that, by the way, we're designing these buildings in America that are supposedly, being dedicated to our experience, and we don't have a descendant designing them. We don't have a descendant designing it. So there's not a black architect anywhere in America, a black designer anywhere in America who could do that? Who's a descendant? We don't have one. We ain't got one. We got to keep grabbing this guy here. We don't have one. Really? Doesn't that sound consistent? And then you take a look at on your screen here. Who celebrates Juneteenth? This is from their website now. And the first thing they start going into is about black women. Black women. About black women. So there were no men in slavery. Apparently, there were no black men in slavery here. Apparently, there were no black men in slavery. We need to focus on the women.
Not true.
As if the women's history is somehow separate from ours. When you accept that little wedge, when you accept that point of the wedge, now we can drive through the rest of it. If I can get you to accept that one. As I said, we are going to have to be fiercely defensive about not only our history, but the words we use and the facts that we pass down. We have to be fiercely defensive of that. Then we cannot allow it to be distorted in any way, neither factually nor logically. It is a logical fallacy to say that a slave in Texas is a Texan. He is a captive in Texas. If he has no rights, he is not a Texan. If he cannot walk into any government building, anything that constitutes the state of Texas, and assert his rights, everybody's in there laughing at him when he says, I'm a Texan. So how can we show up 160 years later and say, well, those were Texans? When literally at that point in time, there was no one. And if he had said that, they would have all chased him out of the room and said, get this nigga out of here. He's delusional. He's crazy. He's lying. And what would they tell you? There's no one here who thinks you're a Texan. There's nowhere you can go and obligate us to observe your Texanness. There's nothing about your life that is a citizen of Texas. You are a laborer in Texas. Now and everything that happens is imposed on you. You see, that's supposed to be the whole point of being a citizen. The point of being a citizen is that you can go to the government structure and assert your rights. That there are certain things that simply cannot be done to you because you are a citizen, which means an card-carrying, honored member of this nation, and that you have rights that the nation is obligated to observe. Well, that's a citizen. You can't tell me I don't have rights, but then I'm a citizen. No, that's a slave. Here, pay taxes. Paying taxes does not make you a citizen. Laboring doesn't make you a citizen. What you are obligated to do, being present in servitude, doesn't make you a citizen. Your geographic location of residence does not make you a citizen. The rights and privileges that you are able to assert, whether anybody likes it or doesn't, that makes you a citizen. That makes you an American. That makes you a Texan. So when you discuss Juneteenth, that was not a Texas event or a Texas holiday or a Texas instance. That was a black instance. That was a black event that just so happened to occur in a geographic location in Texas. That was a black event. That was a black event. And once we start calling those slaves Texans, now you're divorcing them from being black and saying that they have some lesser status adjacent to the white Texans. I submit to you the fact you had to come tell them that they were technically no longer in chattel slavery, that right there proves, oh, y'all aren't Texans. Furthermore, remember, did they have their rights? Now, let's go back a little bit here. Now, Juneteenth, let's have a brief review, Agnes. Juneteenth is to commemorate what event exactly?
Yeah.
Stop, I'm asking for an answer, man. Will you just answer the question? Juneteenth was to commemorate what event exactly?
When the black folks heard, what was it, about the Emancipation Proclamation.
Correct. Now, question, Agnes, which came first? The Emancipation Proclamation or the 13th Amendment?
That's a good question, because the Emancipation Proclamation was in 1862.
Okay, thank you. Middle of the Civil War. So, I mean, my point is, Emancipation Proclamation comes first, 13, 14, 15th Amendments come later.
Okay.
So, What does that tell you? As we covered, remember, emancipation didn't technically mean freedom. It means the change of ownership. No. Change of authority. So without an amendment to the Constitution, you can't just declare the black folks are free. Remember, the Constitution makes powers. Presidents cannot make laws. And if the law of the land is that these people are property, a president just can't come in and say, I don't give a damn what Congress thinks. I say this is the new law. Well, that's not a president, that's a king. And the Constitution was written specifically to prevent that from occurring. So he could not do that. What he could do...
Well, it was my understanding that Lincoln only just issued the Emancipation Proclamation to hurt the economic situation in the southern states in rebellion to the Union.
Take a moment to listen here. Because it's not about an economic strategy, it's about what are you doing? You're fundamentally changing the fabric of the country. You're saying what you're trying to, you don't have the authority to liberate these people without a law. So what did he have the authority to do? Well, what he's saying is that, okay, you're not the only ones who get a say over them. We have a say over them directly. Until we can get a law that actually says you can no longer have them. So the Emancipation Proclamation is a change of authority, but what it is not is an abolition of slavery and a change of your status as a people. That doesn't occur until 13th, 14th, 15th.
Right.
So what I'm saying is you can scream to them about the Emancipation Proclamation all you want to. It certainly did have an effect. But once again, I submit to you, that's a misnomer. We were not, chattel slavery was not formally abolished until the 13th Amendment. So even then, running around Texas talking about the Emancipation Proclamation is a person would be misinformed if they think that that means liberation. Because in reality, that's not what it actually meant. You would have to pass a law that undoes what the Constitution says. Because the Constitution tells the states slavery is legal. And until you declare that it's not legal, you've got a proclamation, but it's really one that's basically a debate between the two of you. You're claiming powers that you may or may not even have. And most likely didn't. Once you get the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, now you've got it. Now you have it. And there's a reason why that took so much time. Now, we all understand what the reasons were, was to destabilize the South, and that in conjunction with the Civil War worked perfectly fine. Which goes back to, by the way, our basis for reparations. When you ask Southerners, why is the Southern United States poorer than everywhere else in America, they will tell you because of the Civil War. But when you ask them why are black people the poorest people in America, they'll tell you, y'all don't work hard enough today. They will not tie our condition back to the Civil War. But in the southern states, if you ask them why they broke and the North is doing so great, they go straight to the Civil War. Well, it's like, okay, that's common sense. That's obvious. Obvious sense. Yes, you're right. It's obvious sense. Sherman's March to the Sea. An obvious sense. Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. When slavery was gone, the whole basis of your economy was stripped away with nothing comparable to step in and replace it. Well, that's economic devastation 101. You watch that happen in Detroit when the automotive industry started outsourcing and going offshoring. And that's economic destruction 101. And yet they'll tell you that that's not bearing on you today. That bears on them, just not you. So once again, this is important here that we take a moment to clarify these things. It's very important to have that. And I want us to be aware of what we're looking at and aware of what we're seeing and aware of exactly what the real terms really are. That it happened, that maybe the history books are recording it as occurring in Texas, but that doesn't make that a Texas event any more than the framers of the Constitution meeting in Philadelphia makes that a Philadelphia event. They don't call that the beginning of Philadelphia. They call it the beginning of America. Nobody's going to divorce Constitution Hall from California. Even if we should, but nobody's going to divorce it from California. Even though that happened decades later. They're not going to divorce it from Hawaii, even though that happened over a century later. They're not divorcing those. What I'm saying is we do ourselves grievous harm if we intellectualize these things in a way and say, oh, let's distill this down and say, okay, this happened in Texas. It belongs to the Texans. It belongs to the slaves. It belongs to the former slaves. It is one step along the pathway of our human dignity and our human rights. It's one step along the way. It neither belongs to Texas nor the Texans. It belongs to the foundation. It belongs to the freedmen. That was not a win for black folk in Texas. That was a win for all of us everywhere. Because we're all we got. And if we ain't good, you ain't good. If you're not all right, we ain't all right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'll let you have the last word.
Thanks for educating me.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. This is a teaching moment for everyone here because there were some folk in the chat room talking about it for Texas. Okay, I used to live in Dallas. I have no animosity towards Texas per se. This is just a factual thing. That's why I had to go to that explanation. And by the way, you don't just declare yourself an American. If the American government will not honor and observe you as an American, you're not an American. That's the whole reason why we are still in revolt to this very day, because our Americanness is not recognized. We are subjected to oppression and penalties, but our Americanness is not being observed and recognized. So no, you're not a Texan, you're not a Louisianian, you're black. You ain't changed. There's nothing about your experience that you can share with the other Texans. You are separate and apart. But you're separate and apart from Texas, but you are conjoined to the rest of black society. No matter where in America they are. Caller from area code 240. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's up, Jason? This is Tarod calling from Fairfax, Virginia.
All right, Tarod from Fairfax. What's on your mind?
All right. Only thing I want to say is that I'm a youngin'. I'm only 21 years old. I only been listening to you for over a year, but I learned so much from listening to the New Black Media, from you, to you, Jason, to Tyreek, to Professor Black Truth, to Lisa Cabrera, and so many others. Y'all have taught me so much than what the public school had taught me in like over 10, 11 years. And all I want to say is thank you for what you do, brother. And I'm out. B1.
B1, brother, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. 21 years old. So he needs to find out what the facts are. And here's the other thing. We can tell him, hey, you can go Google this. They need to know exactly what the facts are and what the events actually are and what their ramifications actually are. Folks, you do understand in Florida and Texas and other places, they are now moving on to try to officially say that the indentured servants were the same as the chattel slaves. This is outright Nazi propaganda. That they were just laborers like everybody else. This is outright Nazi propaganda, outright Nazi book burning. There's a reason why they're doing that. And that's why we have to stand up against this and make sure that we're telling all this stuff that's happened in its proper context. You notice I didn't get into a discussion of opinion with Agnes. I said, wait a minute, how does a nation work? Can I claim to be an American if I have no rights? No, you can't. Caller from area code 646. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
It's Onan X calling from Harlem. What's up, brother Jason?
All right, Onan, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. So there was someone in the chat, I think it was Chief X Ali, who brought up a very good point about Juneteenth being turned into like a Cinco de Mayo of sorts, where if we didn't gatekeep Juneteenth, if we just let everybody celebrate it and, you know, kind of put their spin on it, then eventually it'll leave our hands. And I thought that was a very good point by Brother Chief X Ali. But I also wanted to bring up what you had mentioned that, yeah, we got to gatekeep this thing, you know, because if we don't, if we just let everybody just kind of tie in what they want, and eventually they'll just kind of forget about foundational Black Americans. You know, it just become a general holiday where we just get a paid day off, and or we get our time and a half, or we get our day off, you know, and the significance of the holiday is lost. You know, so I definitely want to thank you for this program, for keeping the fire alive. You know, that foundational Black Americans, we need to gatekeep this because no one else is going to do it for us.
Look, I mean, the very fact that you have a Juneteenth holiday reinforces our separateness. let's be very, very clear. We all understand that Joe Biden only did this is to try to take the heat off the concept of reparations. You see, what we've accepted is that our Americanness is not something that is given. It is something that we have to take. It is something that we have to seize with our own hands. So a holiday that acknowledges our disenfranchisement, that's one thing. We're not going to take our eyes off of where we are. So this thing's very existence is a reminder of what we don't have. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 904. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Sean. I'm calling from Jacksonville.
All right, Sean from Jacksonville. Where, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jacksonville, Florida. I apologize.
All right, Sean from Jacksonville, Florida. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'll be super brief. You know, I lived in Dallas for a while, Metroplex, Garland. I had deliveries. And as an ignorant person from Florida, I had never heard of Juneteenth. And I'm probably not even pronouncing it right. But anyway, I want to thank you for making it mine now. Now I understand. Even though I'm from Florida, it's not just Texas. It's for black people. It's something that historically happened to us, just in another region. And so thank you for that.
Right. I mean,
Juneteenth is mine, even though I'm Floridian.
There's the thing right there. You see, understand something. I'm trying to impress something on you all right now. The reason that we have succeeded where everybody else in the diaspora has failed is because we went to work eliminating tribalism. Let me make this very, very clear. That was not a product of slavery. That was a product of the code that we developed that gets reintroduced generation after generation after generation. We formulated and created a code. We are not tribalistic. Now, sometimes there's some simple acknowledgments of some simple things, which is perfectly understood. I go to New York every once in a while, you know, it's always a thing right there. It's a little tongue in cheek. You go to New York and, you know, like when I talk to my son, but he's not the only one. They talk about country niggas. You know, Cardi B, she run around with Offset. She's talking about don't believe the little country man. She from New York. We acknowledge those things. I know Cardi B's blackness is right. Asterisk. I understand, but you get my point. So that's something that we understand. It's like we go up north. They talk about they brought that country up here, and right. We've never taken offense at that because that's just simple acknowledgement. California comes down to the south, then brought that West Coast down here. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is that that's never been something that we use. That's something that we observe. It's an incidental characteristic. Look it up. It's just something you were born, but it's not something that we use to divide ourselves.
Right.
Now, some folks are not happy about, you know, in the music business, you know, if you're in New York, they bring the music from Atlanta up there and whatnot. But that's not something we use to divide ourselves. That's a business thing, and it's really not something that we're even in charge of. But the point is, we're not using that as, see, we ain't like them New York niggas. We don't do that. We've never done that. Even though you understand a lot of folks are actually from the South, their families are from the South. Okay, understood. But we've never used that as something to become tribal over. You folks left from Alabama, they went to Detroit or whatever, you went to California, whatever the case may be. Okay. We've never treated them or regard folks who are not from the South as others. That's never been what we've done. Accents, geographic locations, socioeconomic status, whatever the case may be. We've never tribalized it because we have a 2-century long track record of not doing that. So as soon as I hear people making distinctions, well, you know, we're Texans. I got to tell you, the reason I didn't like that is because I bristle at even hearing that. Texan? So how do you claim Texas? I mean, I understand what your driver's license says. I get that. But what I'm saying is, did you see who the governor is? Tell me where in Texas that this Texanness of yours is honored. on equal footing with the white ones. Show me that. Show me that one. Now let me go even further. You cannot tell me that it is a right or a privilege if I cannot abuse it. What? I said that. You can't tell me that, folks. It's not power if you cannot abuse it. That doesn't mean that you have a wholesale disregard of the law necessarily, but what I'm saying is that if you cannot take something to excess, if somebody else can control your ability with it, then that's neither a right nor a privilege. That's some charity extended to you by somebody else. This is why in white society, they insist that they and their children be allowed to abuse their rights and privileges. If somebody else can put limitations on you, then these are not rights that you have. These are not powers that came from you. They're powers that came from somebody else. Therefore, they will not accept the lie that this is a power that they own if they don't get to set its boundaries. So when you start curbing that, just understand when you start redefining it, then what you're saying is, okay, I'm second class, but that's all right. I'm a Texan. You are? Yeah, second class Texan, but I'm going to say, okay, no. Either you all the way in or you all the way out. Because when it comes to black folk here, there ain't no halfway in. You all in and you all out. You are all the way in, you all the way down, and you all the way out. It's just that simple, but you're not going to play both sides against the middle, which has been our code, which is why we created terms like Uncle Tom and Sambo. That was our way of saying he ain't one of us. But did you notice that was not based on geography, accent, geographic location, who your parents were? Hell, even if you were biracial, that wasn't what it was based on. We have always based our code of conduct on your behavior. And we have always had a culture of excluding that over there. Let me go a little bit deeper here, and then I'm going to let you have the last word. You see, this is the difference right now. The way we treated these things in America versus the way you treated in South Africa, for example, when we got free, we started separating and we said, we are not going to forget nothing. Over there, it became the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. What the hell? What the hell? So the folks who was killing y'all and things, all right, let bygones be bygones. And then you see the same thing with Rwanda, and I can go down the list. What I'm saying is they got a different culture over there. What I'm saying is they got a different culture over there. I can keep naming lists, by the way, y'all. We can keep this up for a few more countries if y'all want to. Oh, y'all didn't want me to go this deep with it. What I'm saying is that in our culture here, we don't let injustices go on like that, whatnot, and adopt it and accept it. But we can name nation after nation over there of their civil wars, and folks get killed, and then white colonialists come in and folks get killed. And then the way it turns out there is, okay, well, everybody just go home. I'm like, just go home? Hell you mean just go home? Hey, them folk over there done killed your whole damn family. Yeah, they still sitting over there. Yeah, they told us go home. Really? Y'all different. Y'all different. That's not our get down. Y'all different. See, that's a cultural thing. And when I start hearing people, if I even detect, I hear something that attempts to redefine us as balkanized and different groups and them folk over there, yeah, we come from their experience, but I'm different than them. Well, if you're saying you're different, then by definition, you're saying you're better. And that's not we all in this together. That's the whole thing. We've always understood the necessity of making sure we lift everybody up because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We can't afford to have any weak links. We can't afford to have it. We got to get down like this. We've got to do it like this. We've got to acknowledge it and observe it in this way. It's got to hold its integrity. It's got to. We have to. We don't have a choice. We cannot observe ourselves as black women as if you got some privileged position or you're some separate and other. And then when the white boot comes down, all of a sudden the black feminists, where the black men's at? Either you in 24 hours a day, all day, every day. Either you're black or you're a black woman. Which is it? Either you're black or you're a Texan. Which is it? Either you're black or you're a Floridian. Which is it? Because I'm showing you can't be both. Nobody is declaring war on white history in their history books in Florida or Texas or Tennessee. Nobody's declaring war on them. Your blackness is still under assault today. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, I was just going to say real quick, that's a great question that you had us ponder, and that is, how much power did the Emancipation Proclamation have before the 13th Amendment? And in closing, I want to say, I am a Floridian, and rice will never be a breakfast food for me. So I know in Texas, I found out they eat breakfast 8 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, good night.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get call from area code 704. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's good, homie? This is Tyron.
All right,
from
Tyron.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, Tyron from Charlotte. What's on your mind?
What's good? What's good? I have to agree with you, brother. This is actually an indigenous American holiday. If you like it or not, take it what you will with it. But I would say it's a Texas holiday, but also it's a Mississippian holiday. It's an Oklahoma holiday. It's these regions that are in the South holiday. And a lot of these people are indigenous Americans.
No.
Categorically
and factually, what you're saying is inaccurate because it is.
How are you saying it's inaccurate, brother?
Sir, you're asking the question. I'm still talking. And he's like, how are you saying it's accurate? I'm explaining. What you're saying is factually inaccurate. Part of it is true, but that would be like saying Louisianians are not Americans. Now, discarding the other conversation about that. What I'm saying here is that it's not a Southern thing. It's a black thing, but specifically, if you were not in chattel slavery, it don't apply to you. Now, I will stretch it a little further. I'll stretch it a little further and say, if you are not someone who was on the soil at the time that it could apply to, because if you went in the wrong place, even if you had never been in chattel slavery, technically speaking, you could have found yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time. And guess what? Introduced to chattel slavery. But that was not something that was just for the Southern United States. Remember, the biggest slave place was New York. Before they outlawed slavery, New York was the slave capital of America. Dr. John Henry Clark talked about that. You can see the videos he did about that on YouTube, and he was correct. When they talk about Massachusetts, that was the shipbuilding center for America. Okay, the New England states. And they were running back and forth from Africa to the Bahamas to North America to the New England states primarily. Sometimes they stop off somewhere else. Hello, Louisiana. But my point is, that's where they were going. New York was the biggest slave geographic location in America before they outlawed it. And everyone forgets about that. Then it shifted to the South. Well, after that, it shifted to the South. But the South didn't just wake up one day and there it was. New York had to give up that crown first. So what does that tell you about the attitude? Yes, you're not talking about the stock exchange. What does that tell you about the attitude of the Northerners toward us? So what I'm saying is the issue isn't where you were born or where you at. The issue is, are you black? Oh, you are? This is the law for you. No. Another folk get a different one. You get we got another law that applies to you.
All right. So, brother, have you read this book called Indian Slavery in Colonial Times Within the Present Limits of the United States?
Okay, brother, what's your question?
Have you read this? Because all of that's basically a half-truth. Because if you look into the history, they were already enslaving indigenous people in the 1500s in the Southeast. It was under Spanish control. And you were already having people taking Indians from different parts of the Americas.
I don't think he listened to a word I just said, y'all. Either that or he misunderstood it. Or
brother, you're talking about Manhattan, but we're talking about people that has their roots in the South.
Sir,
I did the research about
I
this.
literally
I have
just
ancestors on the Southern
I literally
Plains
just
Commission.
referenced that. I literally just did, sir. So apparently you're having difficulty following the construction of a sentence or a train of thought. I literally just referenced that. Clearly it went over your head like a spitball
brother,
over
have you
a
found
classroom
your
of
ancestors on the
kindergartners.
Southern Plains Commission? Because my ancestors fought in the Civil War.
Okay. Sir, how long did you serve? How long were you in prison?
I haven't been in prison.
Okay, I find that difficult to believe. That sounds.
I've never been to jail.
Yeah, when you have guys who start arguing, when guys,
history and archives.
Yeah, when guys start arguing, plebiscite babble, it's. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Like I say, I mean, powerless individuals, and he reads a bunch of books, but logic and reasoning and critical thinking are not his strong suits. Following the construction of a sentence is not his strong suit. I literally just said you can expand that to the people that it applies to. He literally did not know what that meant. I said those who are actually in chattel slavery, but I will go further and expand it to anyone that it applied to, because you may not have been in chattel slavery, but you might have went in the wrong place at the wrong time. Anyone that it applied to. And then he tells me about the folks it applies to. And see, I got the super secret knowledge. Okay, it's just, this is the issue with Pass the Mic Night. This is the issue with Pass the Mic Night. And just folks who are not used to being listened to is, oh, I can talk. See, let me explain to you exactly what it is. I have done the research. And if I find one more nigga who starts a sentence talking about did the research, did he say nigga? I sure did.
And deal with it, nigga.
If I get one more nigga sitting up here telling me about I've done the research because I have investigated, I have looked into the terms, I know my history, but do you know your history? You know you're not dealing with a full deck when the sentence starts like that. I know my history, and do you know your... Now you're like, okay, here we go. We are off and running. Jason's already addressed that. But see, what it is, I have checked the literature. This isn't debate, people. This is math. Caller America 240. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason Block. This is Dwayne. I'm calling from St. Louis, Missouri, by way of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, Dwayne, and Tobago. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, you to answer your question, Juneteenth belongs to foundational Black Americans. Full stop. That's what it is. But you touched on something very, very important when you were having that discussion with Agnes. Whether Texan or Black. And to me, that is what is the biggest issue to those, tethers, to us tethers. And I'll say why I say us. Because we tend to cling to country or land mass over to what our identity should be. I'll go on record by saying that I believe that anyone who is not a foundational Black American who is in this country is a tether. Marcus Garvey was a tether. Kwame Ture was a tether. Why? Because listen what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. By definition, I'm using logic. Tether is to latch on. So
no, sir. No.
Okay.
You are not going to jump up and redefine words the way that you would like to. No, sir, you cannot do that. You don't get to say, I'm ignoring all of you, and we're now going to go by my personal pet definition or misconception of tether. Tether, to make life very, very simple for everyone out there, tether simply means that you are an off-code person. That is you are a coon from outside of historical American lineage. That's all. That is the word for coons who come from America. Come from outside of America to America. You start with the coon stuff. It's like, you didn't come from the slave fields. No, you came from some other geographic place and brought your own personal version of coonin over here. That's what a tether
Right.
is. And all of the other successive behaviors that follow that. You're undermining people. You're trying to undermine us specifically. You're trying to divide. You're trying to collaborate with the dominant society. Marcus Garvey was not a tether. Marcus Garvey was a Pan-Africanist. Back when Pan-Africanism was actually viable. Marcus Garvey was not a tether.
Right.
Marcus Garvey was down with us. Marcus Garvey got arrested with us. Marcus Garvey got kicked out the damn country. He got persecuted with us. He was sitting right there.
Right.
Some of his other shortcomings to the side, nobody's perfect. Marcus Garvey was never trying to undermine us. He didn't come over here to undermine us. He was looking for somebody who was saying, hey, we all black. He was looking for that. Now, once again, as I say, Marcus Garvey did have some shortcomings about him. I don't want to get off into that. But yes, I'm not gonna say I don't know them, but what I am saying is taking the spirit of what he was doing when he was on the soil with us here. That man was not trying to undermine us. That's the key critical difference. Not being from America is not what makes you a tether. That ain't it.
Okay. Right. Okay. I definitely understand it. I think I overanalyzed the word tether and started looking at it with extreme logic because I'm saying, well, either you're tethered to the code or tethered to colonialism or to Coonan, but I definitely understand and respect the definition. That's why.
Well, I'm glad you asked, but I want to go a little bit deeper in this because I'm glad we got somebody who's from outside the continent to speak to about this because I want to take this as a moment to put it in its proper context. There's a reason that we've always been riders as far as Haiti was concerned. But that's because we understood Haiti in its greater historical significance. If you make Haiti a Caribbean rebellion, then it's a failure. That's the problem. If you reduce 1804 down to a Caribbean rebellion, you've done it grievous violence. If you reduce it down to that, you literally have the French and Spanish and British, you literally have them targeting these people. The major powers of Europe around the world are targeting this little island. And you're going to reduce its significance down to the Caribbean? Why are they targeting you? Because you're black. And we are globally black. So this isn't a Caribbean struggle. This is a global black struggle. And we will acknowledge that freely and openly. But then we talk to them and then they separate themselves from it and say, well, actually, we're different. We're Haitian. Wait a minute. You lost the plot. You lost the plot, dude. This is a global issue. Yeah. But when somebody is trying to convince me that they're not part of what I'm doing and, oh, no, this was not global. This was Caribbean. So, okay, let me let you hold that. Because you see, when to St. Louverture when the boys running around, that's wasn't what they were saying. They wasn't talking like that then. You see, when folks got their asses in a sling and people are shooting cannonballs and stabbing people and cutting folks' heads off, all of a sudden, they don't talk like that. Now that you don't have that boot coming down on you quite the way it was, and Napoleon doesn't have the warships right off the beach, now you're talking different. Now all of a sudden it's, we are right over here. It's, okay. Yeah. Okay. So you've forgotten just that quickly what this was all about. Just that fast. See, there's the difference. Well, Jason, what do you call on-code people? On-code black people of immigrant background. I call them black.
That's right.
That's it. You're not a New Yorker. You're not a Louisianian. You're not a Texan. You're not a Californian. You black. You black. We black. That's black. So the coons are the tethers. The riders are black. Which is why we can make the same point here. When we leave America and go anywhere around the world, we do not go as Americans. We go as black men. We go as black women. We go with the assumption that blackness first because you're in a world that's hostile to it. So when you show up in Ghana and they hit you with the bait and switch, it's like, oh, we got stabbed in the back. You see, if I show up in South Africa, I'm looking for Julius Malema and the Riders because the fight against white supremacy is global, and they understand this, brother. The white supremacists, no matter where they are on this earth, America, Britain, Australia, they understand that an L anywhere is an L everywhere. What? They understand that if they take a L anywhere, that constitutes an L everywhere. Folks, y'all have not had people explain this to you at this level right here so that you understand the psychology of it. If they take, that's why when the George Floyd uprisings happened, you had all your white corporate media outlets in Australia talking about it, in Britain talking about it, and talking about, is this necessary? I mean, you're on the other side of the damn world. How is this affecting you? Obviously it does. Because you're going to war against it and talking against it. Obviously it does affect you. Now, if that's what they understand on the other side of the planet in Australia, then why the hell wouldn't we understand that here? An L anywhere is an L everywhere. Tethers are experts in taking L's, which is why they're constantly looking for a white ass to kiss. Whether it's in Africa, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's in when they get to America, they're finding somebody's butt cheeks to smooch on. And what we're saying is, yeah, that's that plantation behavior. We've left that behind, and you still struggling with that. When we talk about places like Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago, for that matter, when we talk about places like that, there are the folks who understand, and I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but I will repeat this again since I have one of the sons of that place on the phone with me. Trinidad and Tobago, for those of you who've never been there, it's one of the most beautiful places on this planet. It is one of the most beautiful places on this earth. I mean, there's a short list of places that make most beautiful. Trinidad and Tobago is in the top. I would put that in the top 10, maybe the top 6. Definitely the top 10, maybe the top 6. Different people like different things necessarily. Sometimes the temperature is not. I'm from Louisiana, and even I find it to be a little muggy. But other than that, other than that, I'm just saying. Other than that, it's one of the most beautiful places on this earth. One of the most beautiful, which means it's also be one of the richest. Now you take. I've covered this on my program here a couple of weeks ago because we needed to have an understanding about this. Why it is we take the hardline positions that we do. Jamaica is supposed to be one of the richest places on this planet. I did a program here a couple weeks ago. Do we need groups who undermine us? And some folks might have gotten their feelings about it, but it was necessary for me to speak on that program because I went down the list. I was analyzing the square kilometers, the square miles of Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Monaco. You can fit the nation of, we'll call it the nation. You can fit Monaco in Central Park in New York. Damn! Folks, you can fit it in New York in Central Park. And it's one of the richest places on this planet per capita. So if I go to a place like Trinidad and Tobago, if I go to Turks and Caicos, if I go to Cape Verde, these are places that have a bigger geographic region than Monaco does. And they're far more beautiful, far more exotic, far more precious. You got the Arabs over there in Saudi Arabia trying to create a beach and create an island paradise, and y'all got one. You were born in one. These other folks are spending literally billions to make a fake one. You got the real damn thing, complete with clear water. Complete with white sands and clear water. You got the real damn thing. The real thing. You're damn right that's valuable. You're damn right that's precious. But if you do not understand that you are caught in the midst of a world war against your blackness, then you do not appreciate what you have and you will not be able to keep it. And this is how you can end up with the most beautiful places on this planet that should be the richest. Trinidad and Tobago should be a paradise for rich black folk. I'm going to call it like it is, folks. It is what it is. When something becomes more precious, rich folk come in and buy everything. It is what it is. But even if it weren't, you all would have the same rules over there. Let me tell you something about the Arabs. There's a whole lot you can learn from the Arabs, y'all. There's a whole lot you can learn from them. I ain't going to split no hairs about when it gets to Iran either. You can kiss my ass. There's a whole lot you can learn from the Arabs. I reminded you all about Mohammed Mossadegh. Mohammed Mossadegh nationalized the oil industry over there, took it from the British. He said, we're nationalizing it. This belongs to the state now. On account of the fact that you've been cheating us on our oil money, this belongs to the state. We didn't have an oil industry in Iran before yesterday. We got one today. Yesterday, there was a British oil industry in Iran. Today, there's an Iranian oil industry in Iran. Same thing in Saudi Arabia. You had the American companies and the Anglo-Arab oil company, which eventually becomes Aramco. And Aramco today is one of the most sophisticated oil drilling operations on the planet. You all can go take a look at that. Aramco is one of the most sophisticated oil drilling operations on the planet. Sweet crude. And now it's run by the Saudis. It's run by the Arabs. It's run by them. They run that. And as a result, they've made their people prosperous to the point they got to bring in a bunch of illegal aliens because they don't want to work. Same thing in Kuwait. They've done the exact same thing in Kuwait. If you're a Kuwaiti, you doing all right. All the labor is done by the illegals. And one more thing, when you go to places like the United Arab Emirates, oh, shucky ducky, we about to get into it, y'all.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
We about to get into it. My folks who've been to the UAE, my folks who've been to Dubai, understand something. You got laws and rules over there about who can own property. What?
There you go.
Oh, well, if you're not one of them, don't be surprised if you're a foreigner. You can't really naturalize yourself and become a landowner. You see, that land belongs to the UAE and its people. It belongs to them. Congratulations, Mr. Rich White Man, for coming over here with all your money. And you certainly are a privileged guest, but emphasis on the word guest, not the word privileged. So, please enjoy our hospitality and your little piece of our paradise over here. Please remember, it's our paradise, by the way. Just a friendly reminder, it's ours. And that is what the rule and the law of Trinidad and Tobago should be. That is what the rule and the law of Jamaica should be. Folks, do you know that the damn cruise ship industry buys islands? Damn!
Yes.
You in the Caribbean, y'all know? Carnival, Norwegian. I forget the third one off the top of my head. Carnival, Norwegian, and I forget the third one. Don't really matter. Folks, they own damn islands. For those of you who don't know, they said, damn, just having a ship, we can own we'll buy a whole damn island. And that way, when you're on the ship, you dropping off all your damn money, and then the port of call belongs to us, Royal Caribbean. The port of call belongs to us, the whole damn island. We own the whole damn thing like a giant amusement park. Folks in the chat room, is that for real? Yes, it is. Don't believe me? You can go Google it. For those of you who did not know, some of you have been on cruise ships and don't understand. By the way, they own those. They own the cruise ship, yeah, but they also own where they're taking you. They own that too. I'm not just talking about, the ports of call where they own a piece of the island. I'm talking about they actually own a whole one. Y'all can go look it up for yourselves. Don't believe me. You can go look it up for yourselves. I'm not making this up. And what I'm saying is, well, I'll be damned. So the cruise ship that showed up on y'all's island can own this damn thing and capitalize on it, but the folks who live here can't? The white folk and the Asians buying up every damn thing down there in Jamaica, and the Jamaicans are squatters on their own damn beach? Are you kidding me? So the white folk own the wealth, and the black men are sitting on the beach talking about being rental dreads to some honey boo-boo built heifer? Auntie, chill. And you think I'm going to sit over here and be quiet about that? And you going to get your happy ass on a plane or a boat and come over here and try to destabilize what we doing because we got our heads on straight? And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, before you say anything to us here, ain't you supposed to get that little operation over there straightened out? What you talking about? We've been fighting 160-year jihad over here. Y'all the majority population. The majority population. What in the hell's stopping you? Because you're no longer physically colonized. No, you're mentally colonized.
Yes.
And that's why you don't understand why we're drawing this line in the sand and we're making a distinction and making it very, very clear, because the situation is simply too critical at this point. We can't have that. You see, we need a strong Jamaica. We can't cooperate with a weak one. All we can do is sit up here and give resources to it. Jamaica can't help us if it can't help itself, so Jamaica got to get on the square. Trinidad and Tobago got to be on the square. Jason, what's on the square? I meant what the hell I said. You take a look at Indonesia. You take a look at Singapore. You take a look at Monaco. These are places that don't really survive on natural resources. They just put together an economic plan. People, what they've done in Singapore is nothing short of phenomenal. What they've done in Malaysia is nothing short of phenomenal. And what I'm saying is, I'll be damned, and they don't even have what Trinidad and Tobago has. They don't even have that. You know what they do got? A code of conduct. You know what they do got? A code amongst each other. You know what they do got? A lack of a desire to have white people lording over them. Now that's what they do lack. They ain't got that. They ain't got that. And oh yeah, one more thing. They believe that we all we got. So when we say these things, I understand. I want folks to understand we cannot back off of this. We cannot, because we got into this mess by massaging people's feelings and patting them on the hand. We cannot do that. I need my riders to understand, if you good, you good. Shut the hell up. You good. If you're questioning it, there's a problem. But the term, just like we invented coon and sambo, because it is essential that we separate ourselves, because every time we turn around to build something, there's always some coon telling us we can't get it done. That we need to go back to the plantation. We need to let the white folks run. Y'all niggas ain't gonna get nothing done. That happens every damn time. Every time. And the progress we've made has been because we ignored them. And in many cases, steamrolled them. For all the rest of y'all, we got to have the same thing. So when I set foot in Jamaica, when I set foot in Trinidad, when I set foot in South Africa, when I set foot in Nigeria, I did not come asking what I'm going to get. And I didn't come looking for the nearest white person I could find to tell them how me and him going to work together against Nigerians.
Right.
I'm not going to say a single negative word against Nigerians in those folks' presence. Let me remind y'all right here. You want to hear about on code? Think about that for a few moments. See, when white folks show up and try to get into the conversation, you notice that those of us who talk about tethers, we shut that down quick. Oh, aren't y'all talking about Africans? Well, only to the extent that we distinguish ourselves, but I'm not here to help you aid you in denigrating them. I'm not here to help you feed any stereotypes or any facts for that matter. I'm not here to help you do anything negative to them. I'm not here to assist you in that. Oh, we thought you thought it was the same old divide and conquer that worked over there with them. Yeah, we're different. We're not playing that. I don't play that game with you. I'm not looking for you to help me do anything to them. I ain't looking for you. There's no call for you. See, there's the difference. There's the difference. If I show up in South Africa, I'm looking to empower them. I don't need to own any land. I don't need to be a direct beneficiary. Kill the Boer. Because an L for white supremacy anywhere is an L everywhere. The only thing I'm looking for are like-minded people who understand the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It totally does. And to be very, very clear, I started overanalyzing this, the word tether after listening to your program that you're referencing. So that's why I started going that direction, and I appreciate the correction that you provided today. And lastly, I'll say, once I started tapping into your program 5-6 years ago, I stopped calling myself Trinidadian, and then now I just reference myself as a black man that happened to be born in Trinidad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight, and that's exactly the way to see it. You are simply a black person who happened to be born in Trinidad. You're a black person who happened to be born in the state of Texas. You're a black person who happened to be born in Florida. The emphasis is black. You notice, and also notice I said black person. I didn't say a black man, but you can be a man. You're a black person who was born there. Your blackness is preeminent. Anywhere you go on this planet, they don't recognize you as an American. I can't guarantee they recognize you as an American. I can't guarantee they recognize you as a Texan. I guarantee you that anywhere you go on this planet, you are recognized as black. Now that I guarantee you. So you see, I did not choose this. The rest of the world did. Okay, understood. Game on. I'm not going to walk around deceiving myself. Since now they have set up the terms of engagement, we're going to go with that. You see, this is essential for us to understand that our psychology is what we've built and what we have. This is why the conversations that we have to be powered by ourselves. I want you all to take a moment here tonight. If you haven't done so, you want to go, and you definitely want to go and check out our crowdfunding. The link is in the description for 8 a.m., which is just yet another example of that. Of us putting our act together to coach these things in our own terms, not terms that somebody else gave us. So we can have a conversation here and explain this in our terms. That's the kind of thing we need to support. For my folks overseas, by the way, I've had a number of them contact me by email and whatnot. You want to go ahead and click that link so that you can be counted for that as well and lend your strength to the cause. You see, we've shown the example of how to get the thing done. You can't get it done in Nigeria if you don't have a code. It doesn't work if you don't have a code. It doesn't work if y'all ain't on the same page. It doesn't work if you got people sitting right next to you, undermining you, and you sitting there talking about reconciling with them. It doesn't work. I said something over a decade and a half ago that upset a whole bunch of people. It was radical thought. It was radical thinking to them then. I stand by it every bit as much today as I did then. I said, if unity means I got to join with Clarence Thomas and Candace Owens and the rest of the sellouts and whatnot, if that is the requirement of unity, then to hell with unity. I don't want unity. I want empowerment. What the hell do I need unity for if we're unified in being oppressed and defeated? Well, leave it together. Damn unity. If unity means weak, if unity means defeated, damn that. I'm not trying to have it at all if that's what unity means. Not gonna play that game. So definitely while we're talking about everything else here tonight, we coach these things in these terms. We set the national conversation. There's a reason why we can talk about this today the way we are, because we put in our own work to define these things on our own terms. And this is how you redefine things. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 416. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 416. Last try. You're on live.
Hi, Brother Jason. How are you?
Okay, what's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Milton, Ontario, Canada.
All right, Milton, Ontario, Canada. What's on your mind?
So, I'm young. I'm 22, brother, and I've been listening to your shows for a good year and a half now, and you brought a lot of interesting points on. And on the subject on Juneteenth, I like how you were talking about like the education, how it's not only a Texan thing, as I thought originally. I thought it was only a Texan thing, but since you broke it down, I understand it. It's a Black American thing, and I just want to ask you this, brother. What are your thoughts on the haters of Juneteenth? And what I mean by haters, I'm talking about the folks, the white folks that despise Juneteenth, but do you think they're jealous of Juneteenth because their stuff is so bland, or is it also because it's just simply because of white supremacy, just black hatred, simply that?
No, it's because a win for us, as far as they're concerned, a win for them, a win for us is a loss for them anywhere and everywhere. That's the whole idea. Look, white supremacy gauges its success by how far down and oppressed we are. That's why they don't single out other people. You notice they don't single out Asians the way they have us. They don't single out Arabs the way they have us. They don't single out Latinos the way they have us. They don't single them out. All these other folks over here, they're crossing the border illegally. They're dropping airplanes on them in New York, and yet they don't give them the same treatment. Yes, because they do not have the historical relationship with them that they have with us. We are a barometer of white success. If we are destitute and powerless, they consider that to be a health check. We know that white supremacy is healthy because the black folk are suffering. They're completely powerless. White supremacy, healthy. Anywhere they see black folk are not simply struggling and powerless. Wait a minute, white supremacy, we're not so healthy over there. We're not so healthy. We're not doing so well. Up to and including, even if we're doing it in isolated enclaves by ourselves. Historically speaking, and currently to this day, you cannot be allowed to be an independent black prosperous cell because you constitute an ever-growing threat. Well, Jason, what is the threat? They tell you all the time. They've said it for centuries now. They understand what they did. I want you to get that through your head, young man. They know what they did. They know what they've done. They know what they continue to do. And most of all, they know what they would do if they were under the same circumstances. And it wouldn't be singing hymns and marching on Edmund Pettus Bridge. It wouldn't be that. It would not be that. Not at all. What they're waiting for is, okay, they know what they would do. And they've been sitting around nervously biting their fingernails for the last century and a half. And every once in a while, something happens that reminds them it could occur. That's why you see them universally get shook when we take to the streets. Because they're saying to themselves, is today the day? Is this it? Is this the time that it happens? Are we ready? Did we prepare? Did we bring enough bullets? Do I have enough food rations? Is today the day that they do it? Because they have every justification and ration. Understand something. If black folk took to the streets tomorrow, the way these folks are scared we would, tell me something, young man. Do you think there's a single white person in America who would say, I don't know why they're so upset?
Repeat the question. I couldn't hear properly. Sorry.
If we took to the streets tomorrow, do you think there's a single white person who would be legitimately wondering and clueless about why we're upset?
I don't think they'll, because they'll be fully aware why they'll be.
Nobody would be sitting at home saying, well, I don't know what they're so angry about. I don't know what they're so upset about. No one would be doing that. They would all be saying either we knew this was coming or, can't y'all just get over that? But what they will not be saying is, I don't know where this came from. Why are they doing this? What happened? They wouldn't be saying that. There's your proof positive of what it is. There it is. They know. They've always known. And they know now. So I don't worry about what they think or what they say. I'm much more concerned about what we do. And I don't mean that as an empty slogan. What I'm saying is we're far more powerful than we've given ourselves credit for being. We've allowed ourselves to be deceived by the optics of scale. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it definitely makes sense.
You see, we sit up here and tell ourselves that they got the MBA, so they got 300 people, and if you just got the big three, well, you're not significant. That's a lie. When we start acknowledging and accepting the value of what we do, then when we start saying, okay, we're okay. We don't have to be, quote, as big as them. We just need to be as powerful. And you are more powerful with $1 million that you own than $10 million you're dependent on somebody else for. They want you to think that's not the way it works. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's how you build nations. That's how you build economies. That's how you build cultures. We talk about hip hop today, folks. It had humble beginnings in basements and in block parties. It was built by us into an international phenom. It wasn't given to us as an international phenom. Remember, they said you're just a bunch of loud kids. You're just a bunch of loud, noisy kids. That's what they said. I remember hearing that as a child, even when breakdance came. Bunch of loud, noisy kids. You and your boom boxes. Which, by the way, when you think about it as a derisive term, but you and your boom boxes. You're just a bunch of loud, noisy kids. And the saving grace was that you didn't allow those criticisms to make you back down. You kept going because you saw the value in it and you wouldn't be deterred. And now take a look at it. The very same people who were denigrating you when you were doing that, they're the ones most dancing to the beat and trying to figure out how to get in on it. Simply by you seeing the value in you and refusing to compromise or back down. Now that is power. And if you continue walking in that direction, then eventually you will own the world. Yeah, if you're somebody who's been oppressing those people, I'd be worried too. I wouldn't want them to even think about conversations about liberation and freedom that focuses on them and their experience. We've taught you to be ashamed of your experience. It doesn't sound like you're so ashamed anymore. So in other words, we've lost the psychological colonization. Don't you understand that every alarm bell known to man is going off over there now?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you have the last word.
You know, brother, what you say is right. It's true. They're very fearful, and, you know, their heart is going to keep racing fast. And all I could say, let their hearts keep racing fast. Keep fighting the fight. All right, brother, to all my FBA brothers and sisters from Canada, be one to you. You guys will get your reparations. Peace, brother. Peace.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 510. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Mr. Jason Black. This is Black Voltron calling out of Deep East Oakland, California.
All right, Black Voltron on the line. What's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for today's surprise broadcast and for breaking down, and correcting a lot of the misconceptions about Juneteenth. And just wanted to say, for those of us, Foundation of Black Americans out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we've been celebrating Juneteenth since before I was born. And I'm talking about the 1970s. I remember going to Juneteenth celebrations my whole life out here in the East Bay, Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond, over in San Francisco, Vallejo, East Palo Alto. And, the thing that I have, at least so far, might be mistaken, but I haven't heard anybody say is, you're right. We are not Californians or Louisianians or Washingtonians or, we don't, Texans. We're, that's not who we are. We're, like you said, we're black people, but more importantly, I've had to correct a whole bunch of people online stating that this is a Texan thing. It's like, no, it's not. It's a foundational Black American thing. And the reason why is those Texans are a family. Those of us out here on the West Coast. At least for me, I got East Texas on my mama's side of the family and New Orleans, Louisiana on my dad's side. So we've been celebrating Juneteenth since, up and down the state of California with all my cousins, uncles, and family and friends for my whole life. I haven't known anybody different. And so this sounds really foreign to me when I hear people saying, oh, it's just Texas. It's just Texas. It's like, nigga, no, it's not. It's a Black folks thing. Those of us who came out the hellholes of the institution of slavery through the Civil War, through the Emancipation Proclamation, and into Reconstruction, into the Jim Crow system, that, we can't separate our cousins and our aunts and uncles and family down there in Texas from those out there in California. That's our folks. That's our family. There is no difference. And Malcolm X said it the best. Whether you from California, New York, Florida to Chicago, we still fighting the same system of white supremacy by the same devil. Blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin. And we can extrapolate that all the way around the world. Either you Black and you on code, or you a Sambo, a coon. Either foreign, a tether, or domestic. You're the same shit. You are anti-Black. So I just want to thank you for correcting a lot of the misconceptions of what's going on with Juneteenth. And we didn't need that holiday. We was already celebrating.
Now there's the real point of it. These observations are not things that were given to us by others. Joe Biden latched on to that because they already saw, well, hell, they already doing it. They already got that, and it has credibility among them. So if he had to invent something out of whole cloth, that just would have been embarrassing. It didn't have to be invented. It was all like everything else we've done. It was already there. The issue is recognizing it. Now, furthermore, we didn't need the federal government to recognize it. So it's like, we don't need them to legitimize it. The problem I would have here is what you were saying about in Oakland and California. You all had to learn about, you were already practicing Juneteenth. But if these folks had their way, you would think that it never happened. You would think that Juneteenth is just some crazy conspiracy theory that was cooked up by some Afrocentric LSD doing professor somewhere. That's what they would have you believe, that there was no historical event, there was no historical context. And even if there were, it wasn't that significant, and this, that, and the other. What we're learning is that culture is what you build and power is what you take. And now it's got more with that. I think that this is significant and useful in and of itself, if for no other reason than it gives us the opportunity to exercise our muscles in this regard. This gives us an opportunity to exercise those muscles. This gives us an opportunity to demonstrate that something is ours and we can hold it. The declaration by the federal government to make it a federal holiday is their attempt to Americanize it, which is going to be an attempt to dilute it and say that because, now here's the strategy. Now, this Black Voltron and everybody else needs to be gamed up to this. Because we have acknowledged slavery, that should be just as good as you getting reparations, so leave the matter alone.
Shit.
So there's your point. We acknowledged Dr. King being murdered by us. And so that should be enough to get you all to leave the matter alone. We're acknowledging slavery, so that should be enough to get you all to leave the matter alone. We gave you a federal holiday, didn't we? What more do you want? We've acknowledged slavery. Wow, there's a whole federal holiday for it. Yeah, but that's not restorative justice. Acknowledging the issue, that's not justice. When you all go into a court of law, when it's time to sentence you for what you've done, if it's a criminal offense, what does the judge or the jury or whatever, what do they look for? Contrition. Has this person expressed remorse for what they've done? Or they just say, okay, well, you caught me and convicted me. Screw y'all. You hit them with that, and it's like, okay, let's throw this damn book at them. So acknowledging is, yes, I killed the little girl over there. Well, she gone now. Can I go home? It's like, okay, go into court and try that one. Okay, well, I'll have a holiday for her at my house. Can I go home now? The prosecutor's like, Your Honor, he's making a mockery of the courtroom. The judge is like, you damn right he is. Let me see if there's another couple of things I can convict you for. Acknowledging it is not enough. First of all, they're not acknowledging it. But second of all, just simply agreeing, okay, well, Juneteenth happened. Juneteenth was a thing. Yes, but Juneteenth was part of an ongoing process of reparations. When we gonna get that? Because a holiday without the wholeness is irrelevant. And if they had their way, they would have you all convinced that this was just somebody's crackpot pipe dream that was made up somewhere and never actually happened and didn't actually exist. No, what we got right now going on is a triumph of that. And hopefully, I hope we use this as an opportunity to lead to all the other things. As you all know, I'm always on deck for Malcolm X's birthday. That's not something given to me by the dominant society. That's the one that resonates with me. That's the one that resonates with me. I don't need them to give me permission. I will never need you to give me permission for that. I will always be here for that. I don't give a damn what you're thinking. I may be the old man down the street just playing the Malcolm X speeches on the loudspeaker outdoors on that day. I don't need the dominant society to accept that. I don't need anyone else to. And that's power. That's power. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, indeed, sir. Power is taken and not given. And for this Juneteenth, I need those of us here in the black grassroots just to start checking people all around these United States and let them know that the Juneteenth flag is red, white, and blue. It's not red, black, and green. It's not red, yellow, and green. It's not any other colors, but red, white, and blue. All right? This is our holiday. This is a foundational black American thing. All right? In order to take power, you got to check everybody who's trying to co-opt it, trying to take it over. And, you know, and like you're saying, they're almost doing this begrudgingly and extremely disrespectful and insulting to not only myself, but to my family and my ancestors. And I take great offense to that shit, okay? So we, as foundational black Americans, have to take every single time, every single day, you take power every single day, at work, at school, at home, whatever you're doing, you're always on a mission for black empowerment. So, Jason, much appreciated for this broadcast. Thank you for letting me speak. And to everybody out there, enjoy our Juneteenth holiday, all right? But this is our holiday. Don't let nobody corrupt it or take it over. Be one to the fullest.
Be one, brother. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. And I go further than that. Juneteenth is not a holiday. It's a way of life. Dr. King Day is not a holiday. It's a way of life. Malcolm X's birthday is not a holiday. It's a way of life. These observances are not a holiday. Every day is Juneteenth. Every day is Juneteenth. Every day is Stokely Carmichael Day. Every day is Ida B. Wells and Betty Shabazz Day. Every day is. This federal holiday stuff is just the one that the Congress got in on. Every day is that day. Every day. You see, that's how you embrace everybody here as your brothers and your sisters, because every day is that day. You don't just crank it up because, okay, today's a holiday, everybody watching. No, this is what you do every day. Every day is that. We don't have to sit up here and get gamed up and get geared up for something. Every day is the day for that. We don't have to rev up the engines and get revved up. We're always at 5,000 RPM. So June 19th is just the June 19th day of Juneteenth, of an ongoing culture of what we do. Caller America code 718. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, I'm Deborah from Brooklyn.
All right, Deborah from Brooklyn. What's on your mind?
Thank you for this broadcast, because with everything going on, it's a good thing. So I live in California, and here on the East Coast, and I know they have them like everywhere, the Juneteenth celebrations, but from California and here in New York, like they would have a tribute to the ancestors the weekend before they would have the Juneteenth, which would fall on the weekend around the 19th or whatever. So then you start all of these different celebrations, and they meant more before the holiday. And I love what you said about celebrating everybody every day. They just had a tribute to the ancestors here, and everybody it was the black thing. It was like exactly as you're saying it, like people from all over the world, but everybody's recognized as black. And then, you know, respecting what happened in those oceans. And then the following week is the Juneteenth, where a lot of people had celebrations, and the young lady Lori Combo used to always finance a Juneteenth celebration with a black designer here who had this big, you know, telling of what Juneteenth was all about. And nobody in the history books, nobody in the high schools, nobody ever talked about this, but if you got to experience it, whether you were a kid participating or, you know, just a neighborhood person, you know, you had that special feeling for Juneteenth and what it was about. But now it seems commercial, like you're saying. They have a big celebration in Carnegie Hall. They had one last year. They give away free tickets, but they try to include it, you know, with the whole Ligbakusha thing. And, you know, some of the people in the audience, the elders, were kind of upset about that. And one of the dance companies that they had was very good, because he does this show where he starts from Africa, how people were stolen. He really tells a Juneteenth story. This year he's not, you know, invited to perform, but I like the On Code thing. And in New York, they freed the slaves in 1820, but if anybody was traveling from another state where the slaves weren't free, they could be stolen and sold back into slavery. And so from 1820 to 1865 here in New York, slavery was still going on, even though it was supposed to be abolished. So it's such a huge conversation, and I thank you for talking to the youth about it. But it could be a whole course in, you know, a college or a high school curriculum just on Juneteenth and what it means and what it meant from,
that's a good thing, though.
Civil War.
That is a good thing, because here's the issue. The issue is that Jewish society did not leave it up to everybody else to tell their story. They took it into their own hands. Their Holocaust museums, Steven Spielberg.
That's what I love about them.
Well, Steven Spielberg, we can go down the list. They took their story into their own hands, and they made sure that you understand that they are the legitimate source of information about their story. As black people, we will have come into our own when we start holding these events ourselves. People, we are not going to have matured into our own empowerment until we delegitimize all these other events. If it was not put together by us, we haven't come into our own until we've delegitimized the others. These things were brought to you by other folk, or brought to you by folk who may come from our lineage, but they're collaborators. It will not be our own until we delegitimize that. It will not be our own until we make the rules. It will not be our own until we create our own icons of it and our own carriers of it and our own luminaries in it. This dance troupe over here, this marching band here, this location here. When we get to a point where we're the ones calling those shots and whatnot, that's the kind of thing we want to see. If Rick Ross can hold the rapper, not the former drug dealer, if Rick Ross can sit up here and hold a damn car show and thousands of folks show up, and Travis Scott can take over the Astrodome and thousands and thousands of people show up, what does that tell you? That tells you we have the ability to call hands on this if we choose to. Up there in New York, you know, you got them folks up there pretend they still in the Caribbean. They ain't. And running around talking about carnival and this, that, and the others. And they don't have enough white folk to dance for, so okay, we'll dance for ourselves. If you can do that there, that's the kind of thing, that's when you know you've come into your own. When we start amassing that and organizing that ourselves.
We had our own, but we're losing it because there were millions of people. All of that stuff before it became, like you say, a national holiday or national recognition. It was all happening. It was all defined. It was all, orchestrated, financed, by blacks. But now a lot of those people have passed on because, a lot of them passed on during COVID, but thank you for what you're doing, and hopefully the young kids aren't going to have it. They're just going to take it, and I'm down with them.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. You have to understand here, folks, it's yours. Other folks don't give you permission. Well, Jason, they're going to commercialize it. They're going to try to commercialize it no matter what you do. They're going to try to take it from us no matter what happens. Okay. And it is our obligation to show them that the spirit of revolution is alive and well. 90 and you will not take this from us. This is our cultural legacy. We set the boundaries. We set the terms. We define it. This belongs to us. This belongs to us. That's why I keep saying to you all here, who does Juneteenth belong to? It belongs to the ones who built it. It belongs to the children of the ones who built it. And it is to serve. Now, what is the inheritance that everybody else has? It belongs to those of us who built it, and its greater purpose is it serves as an inspiration to the rest of you. For anyone who is not from our lineage, it serves as an inspiration to you. If you can sit up here and talk about remember the Titans and remember the Spartans, then you can remember the freedmen. You can talk about all these other folk here and in any other context is to serve as an inspiration. Well, guess what? So does ours. What we're doing serves as an inspiration to the rest of you also. That is why it is imperative that it not be diluted and not be watered down and not be bastardized into something else. Because if you extract the spirit from it, it loses its value. This is a unique story for those of us from our lineage, and it cannot serve as an inspiration to mankind in general if we allow people to bastardize it and dilute it and change it into something else. If you remove the Nazi Germany from the story of the Jews, you've lost the story. You cannot remove the Nazi Germany from that and water it down and change it to something else. No, it needs to retain that. It has to keep everything in its proper context so that you understand that, yes, these are real places. They're grounded in the real world. You must take it as seriously. It's happened before. It can happen again. And that is what gives it its value, that you are not allowed to alienize it and dilute it and change it and mix it up and to fantasize it. It stays grounded in the real world. So when you start seeing parallels of that in your own life, that's something you can draw on. But do not allow them to turn it into a fantastic story. Do not allow them to start taking elements away from it. So Juneteenth becomes about free folk in general. Our story is not about free folk in general. Our story is about the slaves who became freemen. Caller area code 860. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. It's Brian from Orlando.
All right, Brian from Orlando. What's on your mind?
I've been listening to your YouTube channel for a while. Maybe like 2 months and a half. And I called up a few weeks ago, I think, and also, I have a question, not a question, but I want to see what you think about these, because I was listening to you talk about oppression, for black people and all these things. And I was thinking but I never hear like a solution, what is a strategy to
Boy, what in the hell is the matter with you?
So I was thinking about this. How about if black people, when they like want to succeed in life or start a business or something like this, and white supremacy is always against black people, what will happen? And this is a strategy that I think could work. What will happen if they will look for a partner that is white, right? For example, like a very close friend of them, and then they register a name or LLC under the white people's name.
Nigga, please.
Right? So that way, the face of the business, or maybe of the construction, or maybe buildings or condominiums, it is a face of whiteness. You see, but behind that that name, that face, is a black person. You know, it's a black people. You know, doing that way. The white supremacy will see that and say, "Oh wait, they're just like us. So let's just leave them alone and move to somewhere else." But they're just hiding behind the white facade. You know, for example, what do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think that could be a great strategy thing, Jason? Hello?
Yeah, I'm just letting
you hear me?
I'm just letting you go on there.
Oh,
let him talk,
I was
Jason.
just,
Let him
you
talk.
know,
Let him talk.
saying that, you know, what you think about that. I am Latino, I know, and I have light skin. And honestly, I wish I was black, because since 2016, I see how history, they've been erasing everything, you know, to make it look like white people are the most important people and all these things. But I really wish, me understanding since 2016 that I was
that's
black.
been
I don't
long
care
enough.
if that's the suppression or anything like this. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off track here.
You sure are.
But I just want to see.
Yeah, I think that's been long enough. By the way, to all the idiots and clowns out there, Jason, and let him talk. This is what happens when I let him talk. To any clown out there who says that, this is what happens when I let them go on. Is if I just sit back and say nothing, that's what will occur. Right there. That's what.
Oh, okay,
sir.
Well, I'm sorry if I sound a little.
Sir,
if I sound a little strange.
Okay. Well, sir, here's my thing. You started off the phone call making the assertion that, well, I don't hear any solutions. And I'm like, well, first of all, if you haven't, then you just haven't been listening. I don't get it. I guess you just haven't. So then he tells me that his idea is that we get some white folk to be our front people. Front people for, not really sure. But we should get some white folk to be our front people. While I can see some limited applications for that, that's not really a viable option, because you have too much that needs to be done without you having to go find a white person to serve as your front person or representative for every little thing you do. Furthermore, that's not empowerment, because the bottom line is they're eventually going to figure out who the white man is doing it for. That's their job. You live in the system of white supremacy. Their job is to look specifically to make sure there are no black folk who may be running things, because they understand what real power is. So if they're talking to a person that they know is not really making the decisions, then they want to know who it is who's backing him, because it's obvious he's not really making the decisions. And these people did not get to be in charge of things by being naive or silly or shallow-minded. So if you send a white person out there as your representative, just understand, eventually he's going to be in a situation where there's a decision that needs to be made and he's not able to make it, because he doesn't have the authority to sign off on that. That's a very easy way of figuring out who actually runs things. Ask them to make a decision, a command decision, and see if they're still with you. Or if they keep telling you they need to go check on that. Who are you going to go check with? I thought you were running things. Because it seems like we're ready to go and you're not. Obviously, you're checking with somebody else. That must be the person really calling the shots.
I see.
Now, You said that you didn't hear solutions. I'm just curious. You said that you didn't hear solutions. Exactly what was the solution that well, let's try this a different way. What did you think the problem is?
I think the problem is that this white people at the top that is really suppressing black people to succeed, and it's very obvious. And I've been listening to your podcast, binge watching them, and it opened my eyes for the past 2 months and a half. I still have a long way to go, so I'm sorry if I didn't sound like I heard solutions from you.
Okay, well, let me take this as an opportunity here to help get things straightened out for you. Before you do anything else, you have to make sure that you are dealing with the people who are on code. The big issue that we've had is people trying to make it as individuals, and don't get me wrong, you do have to do a lot of things yourself. You are going to have to get up in the mornings and take care of your business in your life and plot your course and pursue your purpose. Absolutely, you will have to do that. Absolutely. But that isn't speaking on us as a people. So the first thing you have to do is that you may be able to make some progress by yourself. You cannot fight a system of white supremacy as an individual. They're coming at you as a group. You got to fight back as a group. But you can't do that if everybody's got 40 million different definitions of what fighting back is. You can't do that if there are 40 million black people. You can't fight back if you got 40 million different definitions of what pushing back is. So you're going to need to get enough people on the same page. So it's very easy to tell people it's very easy to come up with ideas or plans. What's hard is to accept that you're not going to get mass movement until you've won the war for hearts and minds. Can I convince you that you are black first and not Caribbean first, not Jamaican first, not Nigerian first? Can I convince you of that? Can I convince you you're black first, not New Yorker first, not California? Can I convince you of that? Because you see, if you're not convinced of that singular thing, nothing else I say is going to matter. I can't cooperate with a Candace Owens. I can't get anything done with her. There's no point in even attempting to start because Candace Owens does not consider herself black first, which is why she got booed up with Ben Shapiro and the West End white supremacists, and it happened and ended the only way it possibly could, and the only jackass surprised is her. The only person who's shocked about them turning on her is her. She thought that she was their little chocolate delight and that, she's the only black girl around here, so y'all got to take care of me because it'll be too obvious if you don't. And then they showed her, no, baby girl, that don't matter at all. And what I'm saying is somebody that blinded, somebody that foolish, somebody that pig-headed, we can't work with you. You're off code. You think you're going to form a coalition with the very people who are going at us. But furthermore, you don't think there's a problem. That's the reason we can't work with her. She doesn't even think there is a problem. I'm sorry. To the extent she thinks there is a problem, she thinks we the problem. We ain't rolling with it well enough. And then you find out, her strategy isn't that she thinks that we're wrong. Her strategy is, well, I can out bedwinch the rest of you. And then it blew up in her face. And now she's hoping, and this is going to be a fool's errand, she is hoping that she's the little black girl who's going to get a bunch of white males to side with her and not the Jewish white males who just got kicked her out of the club. Now, if you do the math on that for 5 seconds, you're going to realize that ain't going to work. You'll realize that is absolutely impractical. That can't work. That can't. But she needs to make money, so that's all she's going to do. So if we cannot get you on code where we are of a like mind, nothing else matters. It's not enough to have a Jason Black over here who gets it, the Black Voltron out there who gets it, and somebody else on the East Coast who gets it. That's not enough. It's a good start. It's the nucleus of the atom that starts the process, but we got to have that chain reaction. So this is why we call it an education effort. And we need to be on the same page, enough of us, about what matters and what doesn't.
Jason, just a real quick question. I understand that you were speaking about voting and how important it is to vote and to choose the right candidate to be, making the decisions at the top. Do you believe that it really will really make a difference who they put in our faces as options? I mean, because it's like both of them are just bad choices anyway. Like at the top, whatever politician.
I'm not at all sure what program he's been listening to, because he's subscribing things to me that I'm pretty sure I've never said. I advise you all to vote for Black empowerment, local, state, federal, high school, college student, high school class president. Vote for Black empowerment. Vote for that all day, every day. As far as political candidates are concerned, I am far more concerned with Black people breaking the habit of simply tossing their vote out like vomit every election day. We would be stronger if we stayed home and demonstrated that we control our vote, that we can turn it on and off like a switch. That would actually be a stronger symbol of power. So just understand, when I talk about empowering yourself, I think the first step in empowering yourself is controlling your vote, including controlling whether your vote gets disseminated. But as long as it's a decision you're making and not a reaction that you're having. So I'm less concerned about the candidate on the ballot than I am about how you respond to it. Because there is an option of voting for the left, there's an option of voting for the right, there's also an option of staying your ass home. Or there's an option of a third party. There's a number of different options. I'm more concerned about, do you understand the power of your vote? Which means you have the right to use it. You also have the right not to. Now, it is one thing if you do not vote out of apathy. That's one thing. You're a person who just never votes. I don't know if you're helpful to us as a group. It is another thing if you're a person who says that I am a conscientious objector. I got my voting license, but I'm not using it. Yeah, I got it. I'm authorized to vote, and I am choosing not to do so. Now, that's the person I need to talk to a little bit more. It's like, okay, you're exercising power. Well, this is the kind of man or woman we need. They're saying, I am withholding my vote. Not the voting don't work and then folks don't listen to us and blah, 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 blah. Not that. That guy right there, he's not a help. The person who says, yes, I have a vote, I'm withholding it. Now, he's different. He's different. I'll let you have the last word.
I just want to say that I really appreciate your channel and the things that you expose. And every time that you bring new videos or it goes live, I'm always listening because I'm like, I'm still learning. I'm still just trying to understand and putting things together. But I really believe when you say at the last message on your broadcast, you say black, that black is the future, right? The future is black. And every single time I agree with it because from the very beginning of time, it was black, so because two white men cannot make a black baby. But two black people can make a white baby. And if you know what I mean, is that from the very beginning, the first two people, they had to be black. So that's why, I wish I was black, because that's the original way that men should be. But anyway, well, thank you, Jason. I hope you have a good day.
Well, thank you very much. We're glad to hear that. And you might not be able to be black, but that's okay. You can be with black. You can definitely be with us. You can definitely lend your strength to the cause, sir. So if you believe in that, definitely this would be a great opportunity for you to go ahead and hit that link to our crowdfunding for 8 a.m. You want to talk about what you're going to do about it once you're on code. Now you got to have the game plan. So definitely you can go ahead and hit that link. The link is in the description of the video. It's also been posted there again in the chat room. So if you definitely want to if you want to do something for black folk here, you want to be a part of it, don't give lip service. I see some people have been contributing during the program here. I want to have some people who are going to be producing, and especially for the special invitation. Don't want a bunch of folk for that. But by the way, for those of you who've been waiting there, that's the kind of thing you need to be. That's being on code right there. That's being on code. Don't give lip service to it. Anybody can sit up here and talk about what they want to do and come up with big lofty ideas. What I need for you to do, brother, is go ahead and work a couple of extra hours of overtime so you can be a part of what we're doing. See, white supremacy did not get where it is today by running its damn mouth. It got where it is by passing the hat and putting foots to butts. So lip service is not service. Putting skin in the game is where that matters. We don't need to have white folk as front people. What we need to have is black folk empowering it and be empowered by it. You had a whole bunch of non-white people. They were contributing to George Zimmerman, passing the hat for Darren Wilson, Daniel Pantaleo, and all the rest of them, Kyle Rittenhouse. You had non-white people who were supporting that. You had some black folks supporting it too, as a matter of fact. I'm going to get into that at some point. But just keep that in mind. If you really want to show that you are serious and you about that life, it doesn't take a million people, my man. It just takes just you. Ain't no excuses. And none for anybody else here. This is why, if you're talking about freedom, this is why I mean it's every day. This is not something we just do and then you go home. How much sacrifice are you willing to put into it? Our ability to get people's attention on a national scale. That's why when we do things like we're doing right now, when we do things like our documentary work, when we do things like our broadcast, when we do things like gathering you all together on holidays or anything else, that is us having a national conversation in and amongst ourselves, of ourselves, and saying, okay, here's what we gonna do. Here's what we gonna do. I want us to exceed everything we've done, by the way, for 8 a.m. I've left it up to each of you what you want to do about that. But by the way, I would love to see us exceed everything we've previously done for our previous documentary work. And if every person in here right now simply put in $50, you would exceed all of that. I want you to challenge yourself to do that, to have your name put on this. This is the kind of thing you want to see. This is the kind of thing you want to see. Let me get caller from area code 407. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Mike, calling from Orlando.
All right, Mike from Orlando. What's on your mind?
How you doing, brother? I grew up in Colorado, and in Colorado we were doing Juneteenth early since the '90s, and it started from like a small town started by a runaway slave. It's called Pueblo, Colorado, and we've been doing it ever since the '90s. So when I moved to Orlando in 2010. I was like, hey, yo, y'all celebrate Juneteenth? And the people, Juneteenth? What's Juneteenth? What's Juneteenth? And I'm sitting there like, wow, these people don't even know what Juneteenth is. And they're looking at me like I'm the stupid one. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look, it's the miseducation of the school system. If you leave it up to the school system and feel like we won all the battles and now the dominant society is going to go along with our program, you're sorely mistaken. You've been lulled into a false sense of security. So you can't assume that they're going to look out for your best interests, because they're not. They're not.
Yeah. And then like my boss was like, why can you always request off on the 19th? And I invite people over, we barbecue and all that stuff. And like my boss was like, why are you doing that? And I told him it's the day we got our freedom. You know what I'm saying? Listening to that from Texas. In Texas, the last people got freedom. And he was like, I never knew that. And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, oh, and then when like Trump said it, because he was like a big MAGA supporter, and when Trump said it, he was like, oh, you've always done that. You've always done that. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we've done it my whole life. I've always celebrated Juneteenth. You know what I'm saying? But like in Orlando, you have a lot of people that are like lost in their like genetics too, where they don't even, half of them Caribbean, like you said, they don't even know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? And
well, I mean, like, because there is no equivalent. There is no equivalent to it. Think about this for a few moments now. think about this for just a few moments, because I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. So these folks here, and this is why it's essential for them to see our example, because we set the trend, and what we do as the descendants of the foundation here in America, what we do, that sets the trend that everybody else follows here. That sets the trend that everybody else follows. And because of that, if we set that as the example, they're going to follow that. They're going to follow that. Exactly. Now, let me explain to you what I mean. So, for example, when you talk about carnival. Now, if I don't miss my guess on that, that's Caribbean Carnival. If I don't miss my guess on that, I want to say it's Trinidad. I want to say it started in Trinidad.
Tobago, yeah.
I want to say it started in Trinidad. So what I'm saying is, think about that for a few moments. In context of what you're saying about Juneteenth, don't have to be educated on that. Don't have to be told on that. So they've got to...
Just like the Haitians with the beginning of the year and their Independence Day on January 1st.
Right. And what I'm saying is, by the way, who's telling you to do that? So that there isn't an equivalent to what we have. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Juneteenth, and there's not an equivalent to that. Not among them. So that's why us saying that makes folk queasy. So, well, why are you trying to dig that up? Okay, nobody considers it to be a negative when America talks about independence from Britain. That's not a sore subject or brought up as a negative. We start talking about that and we start making folks queasy. We start making folks nervous.
Yeah, because like in 2000, I'm sorry.
Why y'all doing that? The white folk might not approve. Why are y'all doing that? So there's the difference, is a difference in mindset. But I mean, you make a very good point, incidentally, but you actually make a good point. They don't have an equivalent to that. Carnival is not an equivalent to Juneteenth. Case in point, you do have, even in Haiti, although probably not so much recently, but do you even have a real celebration of 1804 there? Do you even have that? That's something to keep in mind. Now, I also want you to understand something else. You got Carnival in Haiti. Did y'all get that?
Yeah. They celebrating everything else,
Yeah, but here's my thing is, how significant is Carnival in Haiti? Is it
it's
third?
Not significant at all.
Is it the third biggest event there? Is it the second biggest event? Or is it the biggest event in Haiti? Folks, you can Google it right now.
I couldn't tell you on that one, brother.
You can Google it right now. It's the biggest event. You can Google it right now.
Okay.
Haiti's biggest celebration, Carnival. The first thing you would ask is, celebrating what? See, we know what we're celebrating. You see what I mean? We know what we're celebrating. And what I'm saying is, I want Haiti to get its act together here, because I'm like, okay, Haiti, by the way, the biggest celebration you all have is Carnival. Wasn't that when they killed Moises? Need to go back and go check the date and see when they assassinated him. Or when that last interview was done. Not when they assassinated him, when that last interview with him was done. But by the way, yeah, Haiti is celebrating Carnival. What about 1804? You see what I mean? Plenty of energy for Carnival. Is the same energy there for 1804? Is that same energy there in Jamaica for Garvey? Bookman Duddy. Is the same energy there for that? I'm taking you to all these places here, so I'm like, you kind of stumbled on a point there. I know I took it in a little bit of a different direction than you were thinking, but you actually stumbled on a good point there, which is, by the way, we have a culture of resistance. We have a culture of revolution. So you see, when it was time for us to choose something, we chose something that epitomized who we are: resistance. Resistance against white supremacy. That's what resonated with us. And I submit to you that these folks chose what resonates with them. So we are in the midst of a huge re-education effort at this point right now, because if they have their choice, party over here, carnival over there. What we're saying is a foreign language. They don't see, well, how in the world would you have a celebration about revolution? It made no sense. To which I would submit to you, that's one of the only things worth celebrating. What are y'all celebrating? Carnival for what? Religion? A religion where everybody gets naked? Okay, what is this? I'll let you have the last word.
My last word is my mother passed, and she passed in Minden, Louisiana, so I had to go through your stomping grounds and stuff like that. And it's really like what you're saying, you know, because like you had to go to DeRidder, because I flew into Lake Charles, then you had to go to DeRidder and all them places. My brother was like, we got to be out here by sundown. He was like, these white people be trying to act stupid, you know. And I just seen what you were talking about, how it's racist in Louisiana and stuff like that. And I just wanted to tell you I had to go through your stomping grounds and stuff like that, my brother.
Well, you know, one of the things that you find out in Louisiana, for example, you go to places like Gippsland. Anybody who's going on I-20 and you see that sign for the Bonnie and Clyde Museum, I want you to understand we still have plenty of places in Louisiana where there are towns that don't have street lights. What? And if you went through certain parts of Minden, but especially if you went to Gippsland, Acadia, you know, down south, coming north of Lafayette, we got towns in Louisiana where you can drive for a few miles and there's no lights.
And it was swamps on each side of the lane.
Well, if it starts flooding, it can happen.
Raining.
Yes. If it's raining, we're below sea level. So yes, if it starts raining, yes, you could find yourself very easily in a place where you're driving down the street or down the freeway or down the interstate, and there's water on either side of you.
That was so scary.
With no lights.
Yeah, it was dark, bro. My brother's like, we got to be out before sundown.
A perfect place. A perfect place for a person to disappear.
And some white redneck truck was riding us too, right there when you get from right when we got out of DeRidder, and he was just riding us. And he was like, nah. And it was a snowstorm, it was a rainstorm and everything. Couldn't see like 5 feet in front of us. It rains bad out there.
Yeah, I mean we're very good for that in Louisiana weather-wise, and I don't say this because I want you all to be scared. I would never tell anybody to come to my state, anywhere in this state, and be scared, because I'm not scared anywhere I am in this state.
I was scared of the I was scared of the rain in the swamp.
But I'm aware. I'm not scared anywhere in my state. However, I do want you to be aware. I don't want you to be scared of fire. I want you to be aware of it. I don't want you to be scared of heavy objects. I want you to be aware of it. Please look up. I don't want my people to be fearful. And I would not advise you all to be fearful, but I do advise you to be aware. I do advise you to be aware. Be aware of places where they don't have a lot of street lights. Be aware of places that are sheriffs that we don't really have much influence with. For example, now I'm up here in Shreveport. Shreveport has a sizable black population. And while in the last 20 years, you've had black mayors and black police chiefs, you still got, the sheriffs in this in this part of the state have not been particularly agreeable to us. But we're not destitute in that regard because, for example, the district attorney's black. So some of the railroading they would ordinarily be able to do in some of these smaller places, you can't really do over here. Okay, but please understand that's Caddo Parish. Once you get outside of Caddo Parish, go over to Bossier, go down to DeSoto. Once you get outside the Caddo Parish, different situation. Same thing when you get down to New Orleans. You might be okay in New Orleans, in there. Once you get outside the New Orleans parish, Baton Rouge, I can go down the list here. So you've got these islands in that regard, and I want you to understand where you are in those other places so that you are aware. So that way you understand how you need to move. So if he's telling you, yeah, he's not comfortable being out there in certain places there, because he's like, at nighttime, they kind of make up their own rules. And what I'm saying is the whole issue is you ain't got no backup. There's the problem in that situation. There is that you can be as righteous as you can be, and you can be ready to defend yourself, but remember, you don't have any backup. You got the sheriffs, and the sheriffs are down there with them. So that's the only thing I would advise people to keep in mind.
Yeah, because we had to stop at this little convenience store, and when I had to use the bathroom, my brother was like, hurry up and go. So I walked in. I said, oh, snap. I was like, hey, yo, nah, let's just go. I'll wait till we get back to Lake Charles, bro.
Oh, dude, I felt the same way in Oregon. I cannot remember. Maybe one of these years I remember where it was. It was coming up the interstate up there in Oregon, and it's an exit, and maybe folk in Oregon know where it is, but it's an exit, and it's an exit that winds around this hill. It didn't go around it once. It's coming down. It's like I don't know if it was a mine or something, but you're getting off the freeway, and it's this exit that winds around this hill. It like goes around it twice till you get to the bottom of it. At the bottom of the hill, across the street there, and there's like a mobile gas station. And I'm telling y'all, it was like 30 days a night, okay? I get out of my truck, and I'm sitting here watching the sun go down. I'm watching the shadows extend. And I told you, I kept the front door of my truck open. It was nothing but white folk coming through there with old pickup trucks, and it was just, I felt like 30 days a night. They all staring at me at this little old mobile station. So I'm keeping my front door of my truck open. Now, I didn't close that. I'm like, okay, the engine is off, and I'm keeping the truck and keeping the door open because too many people are recognizing me, or too many people are looking at me. And I'm telling y'all, I'm literally just watching. That was the longest 3 minutes of my life in recent history, watching the sun go down and the shadows start stretching. But when I was getting off the freeway, the sun was still peeking up. By the time I finished doing the gas tank, I had to get up out of there because I'm like, oh, we've just hit dusk. We just hit dusk. That's in Oregon. I mean, that was literally a sundown town. No black folk nowhere. I'm sitting up here with my head on swivel the whole time. No black people anywhere. There's a bunch of white folk going around down there. And that was it. And what it reminds you of is, by the way, when you black and you by yourself, anything can happen. There should be something. Now, Candace Owens wouldn't see life that way, of course. Candace Owens would be like, what's the problem?
No, she would probably have some tea with him and stuff.
Candace Owens would have all of us getting messed up out there. So, but for us, we understand at a basic biological level, yeah, when we're by ourselves in situations like that, that's not good. That's not something you go into where you're just surrounding, you're by yourself. And especially if don't nobody know where you are. You don't do that. You don't do that. When the sun go down, you got to make sure you plan for that. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, you're right. Now, we hit everything on the head. I just wanted to let you know I went through your old stomping grounds, brother.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here.
Be blessed. Black as one.
Absolutely. Definitely go ahead and, make sure you remember that. I don't want folks to be scared. I don't want y'all running around being scared. You're not here to be scared. You're not here to be afraid. You're not here to sit up here and be biting your fingernails and be acting like Scooby-Doo. That's not what you're here for. But being wise means being aware. So you don't have to be afraid, but you do need to be aware. You do need to be aware because the whole reason we celebrate Juneteenth is because the fight's not over. The entire reason for the observance of Juneteenth is a recognition that the fight is not over. It didn't end in Texas letting them know about emancipation. It still goes on to this day. Still goes on to this day. That's the whole point. It's still happening. We're still in it. As a group. Not as individuals, as a group. as a group. I don't have any biological children, but I've dedicated my life's work to improving the lot of the next generation for other people here because we all we got. We all we got. And that's the spirit we're carrying on here now. That's the spirit we're carrying on here now. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Taking a look here, and I see folks have been putting something on the crowdfunding here. We got 26 days to go. I want you all to make a point of doing that. I know it's the summertime. I know you sitting up here thinking about something with a G-string walking down the beach. Or maybe you thinking about, a moo-moo walking down the street. What? Walking down the beach, it's just... Some of y'all need a bikini. Some of y'all need a burqa. Damn! So it's okay. We ain't hating. Do what you do. But before you go off and do that, by the way, keep in mind that we still have an effort going on here in changing things. It is not going to be a part-time issue. So make sure you go ahead and check in on that. If you listen live or recorded, I want everybody who's in here. I really want all of y'all to have producer credit on this because I'm very proud of this effort. And I want you to be a part of that. Glisten Rain and everybody else here who's contributed to support this. I appreciate that. And I want us to outdo anything we've done before. So that's the message I want to send everyone, that this is important. While Issa Rae is on the way down and on the way out, we're still doing what we do here. We're still doing what we do here. So let's not meet what we've done before. Let's surpass what we've done before. With 7 a.m., we raised over $100,000. There is absolutely no reason that we cannot pass that. There's no reason we can't do that. So to everyone, I know you have things to do. We all have things to do. We all got something there. But remember, white supremacy don't take a holiday. White folk were proud. They were proud to brag that they were doing overtime. They were taking money out their children's piggy bank. They were taking money out the college fund to go drop it off for Kyle Rittenhouse, George Zimmerman, Darren Wilson. Being on code means not giving lip service. So I want all of you to be a part of that, and I appreciate that as well. Juneteenth is not just in the next 7 days. Juneteenth is all day, every day, anywhere, with any one of us. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend and on certain other days in particular. This Saturday, I'm going to be discussing the situation in Tulsa, by the way. Just to give you all a heads up, just already letting you know, this Saturday, I know you've heard about what happened there. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity to remind people that what the issue really is. They sat up here and lied, and they will continue lying all this time, telling you, well, if you wasn't alive during slavery, if you weren't a direct victim of it, then why should you get anything? And now they've marched into court and said, yeah, even if you're a direct victim, yeah, you black, you don't get anything. And I want them to keep tipping their hands and showing their fangs and putting it out there nakedly. I don't want the white supremacist system to have to lie anymore and to conceal what it's doing anymore. I want the white supremacist system to take off the cloaks, take off the masks, take off the disguises, show their faces for who and what they really are, and to say what they really mean. Which is why it is so important that we push them in the corner. Now you're getting them to just outright admit it and confess it. Yeah, we're against you. It needs to be spelled out in no uncertain terms so that there's no ambiguity, so that no one can sit here and pretend that we are safe. If they will not pay the folks in Tulsa, who they confirmed you owe them, then what you understand is they're not going to pay us for Wilmington. And they are not going to give us reparations for chattel slavery unless we take what is ours. We are going to have to demand that. They are not going to give it to us. If they are showing you now that they understand exactly what we're saying, and even if we take away all the excuses, they will stand by it. Yeah, it's going to be rough as hell. It's going to be hard as hell to do it, but we're going to stand by it. We're going to stand by it. So this Saturday, we'll be discussing that. Whole lot more going on here as well. So you all are welcome to join us. If you have not been to our crowdfunding for our documentary film, 8 a.m., the link is in the description. Can't wait to see all of your names on the credits for this. I'm very proud of this work. So definitely please join us for that as well. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all soon to be available on DVD and streaming at blackchannelfilms.com. You can join us there. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program. Thank you for watching live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you to everyone who's contributed in the super chat. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is resistance.
Father, I want to know what the fuck do them Rasta man a blood? The man them come with some Catholic and some Jehovah Witness and some 7-day thing. It's like everything that's gone to nothing to brother. Come like me say, yo, one time I sit down and I check in for all a big man thing, you know. It's like, I don't know where the man am different, you know. No man not different, nothing brother. You're born with him, but the man knows the family. What the fuck that do? Emmanuel do for blood clot, black people struggle road. I sit down in my car right now, I tell them, I see the people I walk up on the road, and I say, John Star, this JahBunny I talk about, and the man, the people know where am I going, brother. I left from there, California, 10 years now, you know, brother, I'm forward in New York, and I be a Indian people and some other blood clot people. I say, I put up a rising building and be a enterprise, I go up and as I say, father, it's like a waste of time, brother. I know your blood clot feel, man. Train not even. You think some me are going to blood clot prison for them people, yeah? And them people are not fix themselves all right. I'm not train not even, man. I'm vexed, brother. I'm vexed, man. I know you got through, brother. I know you got through now, road boy. All of them blood clot fight, then when you realize it's like you fight for nothing. Nothing family, no singers, no DJ, none of them. The whole of them are some bag of fool. All the guys talk about him a be a white blood clot, man, brother. Him should even come from the year, come say that family. What the fuck him a talk about? What the fuck if you beat white people, brother? You can't beat white people, family, man. If you love them, they pick them dead like dog, man. I want to tell you, man. The fuck wrong with them people, man? Family, me tell you, man, right I know, me like, me I tell you the star. Vex, man. I sit down and I pray everything, man. Enough time I go so I listen to your program, brother. I'm all a meds, man. I'm saying, I'm glad you come blood clan, but I know what for doing and what way for going, because I don't say Africa 100%, you know, right now. It's a different outlook from Africa, that me I tell you. Yeah, man, like you're making us Africa feel different us, man. I know them not say come home with little children. I know them not get prepared nothing for the youth, them, brother. So in terms some man attack and some man make sound, man, I have to know what them are say, man, family man, just attack and not even meds with them attack, brother, as I say, look like him lose it. Him seeing it, because the man attack be madness for right. Emmanuel not do nothing more than the youth them up there to be a fuck about me, bro, man, mat and all of them things. No faction, no set up. What the difference it make? I tell them about this a Bible and this a matches and this and that. You know, no guy no come to me no Bible, Rastafari is medicine, nothing. No come show me nothing about no man in no Bible, brother. That me make them blood clan no man. I don't want no man come tell me nothing about no Bible, brother. I don't in it with no guy. That me make you know them Rasta man come like especially Bobo them but them be a Bible thing, man. The man forget about what the reason them are blood clot Rastafari, like the man don't know so some church thing the man talk about. John said mama and Peter said no boy can't come to me with none of them thing the father. And that me make you know no boy. That me make you know no boy, no girl, no give a fuck or oh. None of them can come to me, come give me no talk about no Bible thing. I'm to you, man, I don't want no man show me no Rasta in the Bible, no Selassie, no 12 Emmanuel. all of them things they are bullshit, cause you know see nothing, no difference. Some people they must struggle on the street every blood clot day. And them have the most Bible and the most. If I'm no idiot. Look how much blood clot church that Jamaica and how much crime I go on every day. The youth them can't even live fast. Blood clot 21. You know, so much blood clot Jesus they run them. Too much Jesus, man. I said the man them can't live fast 21. So the blood clot God and Jesus and save them. Family, yeah, my man, I tell you something. Man. Let's go on the way of the young father. That's all I can tell you, man. I feel them look at men and people in my mind. I'm going to look at church blood clotting, you know. Cause yo, man, they have to know guy come tell me about Jesus and that man a return and who the dead before and who I don't give a fuck. Who want first and second and last. So all of them don't know the difference and make one. I say, brother, you know, say black people are going nowhere. I want them to listen to Gilly man say more things change, everything remain the same. Yo, family, me no idiot family, man. Me give thanks to your strength, brother. That's that more, you know, when I feel like, say, boy, man, now all a vibe. Man, a vibes, brother. That's that more, you know, my father, man, a vibes are far right. So I just them look a guy there with them look a Christian mentality, big man. We're not going nowhere. Fuck you come talk about Emmanuel for what the fuck Emmanuel do? More than get one over people up there, so I know no blood clot difference I make. At least Marcus Garvey seal out the Black Star line, at least something and make a move. What the fuck? Come on, singers and DJ the boy. You want to see none of them and say them you have plan a trip. If I organize something, say, yeah, we could go in and meet up with some warrior and so we can do meet. Organize something for meet up with some president or some minister or whoever run the place. That's when we can give it some land and give it some gold or something to make a difference. That's we can put together what we have and make a difference for ourselves. Because nobody not going to do it for you. None of them not do it. All of them go blood clot for themselves and them friend, them family. I know all of that, man. I'm not trying to make, you know. I not pay them no mind. Just that more, you know, just go on the way of the brother. Just there, so I go and vibes the scene, look how more blessed.
This station is from a stream to a flowing river. This station is growing bigger and bigger. This station is for all the garrison. No other station in comparison. The Badass station is everywhere. Even when you're shopping in these places, Tesco, Lidl, Sainsbury, and even Morrison, JahBunny station, no stress, no pain, and no altercation. JahBunny Badass station.